What? Break it down. What? Yeah, yeah. We've done it. Here we are. Glory be and mercy me. We've done it yet again. Here we are. Streaming away today. Hope you guys had a good weekend. I had a pretty good weekend, honestly. Saturday, I sacrificed my life to capitalism, which was nice. I asked a woman out on a date, and she said yes. And I sent her a text to schedule that, and she hasn't got back to me. So that's great. That's wonderful. Boop. Hey, Barnabas, how you doing, bud? And then Sunday, I actually decided to take the day off for real. I didn't tune into anything. One of the things that really sucks about this story in particular, the Ukrainian story, is that all of the places I would go to just wind down, America's Funniest Home Videos, TikTok, Imgur, those sorts of places. Well, they've all become part of the whole war rhetoric effort, right? Everything is just as heightened as it can be. Any of the information that's coming out in Western media, basically it comes down to don't talk about the Donbass war. That's really what it is for Western media, that they know that we can't talk about our funding and aggression against the Donbass region, because they know that that is actually the linchpin for their whole narrative to collapse. That as soon as the populace puts together that this is yet another story of Ukrainian aggression. Oh, bye. What are you saying bye to me, Eric, for? Hey, bud, how you doing? Have you seen those YouTube shorts of that guy who discusses vids he's seeing and he ends up yelling, "There isn't even a car"? No, I haven't, dude. I'll take a look, though, because, I think that something that's interesting, okay, is that, and I think this is worth talking about, and tomorrow's video will probably be about this, so I'm just crystallizing my thoughts on this. But, why is it that this war actually matters to the West now, right? We've been at war throughout the Middle East, throughout South America, throughout Africa, throughout Eastern Europe for years and years and years. And it doesn't matter to us at all. We have an existential sort of general sense of that's not good. But this time it's an enormous outpouring of support for Ukraine, an enormous outpouring of angst, an anti-war movement kicking up, all of that kind of stuff. And I think it is finally because I think semantically, and Major, yeah, you can't even play games without seeing it, right? It's everywhere. And I think it's because semantically, there is no difference between we support Ukraine and please God don't nuke us. I think that really, if you dig into this, and if you really start asking your regular citizens, they don't want to hear about the Donbass war. And frankly, I'm more or less of the opinion that even if you did convince Westerners that this conflict exists because of Western aggression, which is an incredibly believable narrative at this stage in the game. You've got to be you have to have tuned out of American politics for the last 20 years to be in disbelief that this is somehow America's fault. I think it's just that there's nukes in play. And here is a war now, which is the logical conclusion of all war, by the by, but we finally reached it, where now there's a real existential threat to us, right? That's the reason why this is so extreme and why the reaction is so extreme. And people are not operating or even ready to operate from a place of rational thinking. They don't want to do a historical analysis. They're not capable of doing a historical analysis. Because, very straightforwardly, there are nukes in play, and that's got everyone freaking out. Like, that's what it really is. Like, if Vladimir Putin, like, if it had been Belarus, right? If Belarus had gone in and seized a piece of territory in Ukraine, right? We wouldn't even care. We wouldn't even notice. We'd just be like, okay. Little scuffling. Like, even if it was a major invasion by Belarus, right? Belarus is not a great example because Belarus is like part of Russia, sort of, still. Like, they're very loyal to Russia still. But like, I don't know, if Austria seized a piece of territory in Poland, people would be like, whoa, that's nuts. But they wouldn't, like, care, you know? Like, the only reason Westerners actually care about this moment is because of the existential nature, the existential threat that Russia actually provides, which is the threat of nuclear annihilation, right? Like, that's what we're really talking about here, ultimately. And, like, no one wants to get to that level. No one wants to get there. All sides, like, if you're pro-NATO, right, you're saying, hey, peace, can we get to diplomacy? Ignoring the fact that the Americans haven't been doing diplomacy for 8 years straight while they're funding neo-Nazis to bomb Donbass. But still, that's what they're saying. And then the people on the pro-Putin side are saying the same thing, right? That there are literally Russian citizens in the streets of Russia being like, diplomacy, let's talk about this. And in many ways, this conflict that this conflict that Putin has involved himself in, like, it has brought people to the table, because that was sort of the problem, if you ask me, that the Americans weren't really willing to get to the table. They weren't really willing to talk about Donbass. They weren't really willing to talk about any of this. And interestingly, what's really interesting about this particular conflict is that unless it escalates to nuclear war, which it could, right? Like, we're just scared monkeys with bombs, right? We're not smart. Like, we don't really think things through. We get involved in these conflicts and we don't really know what we're doing, and we don't really know where it's going to go. And when you're talking about, like, power mad and bloodthirsty psychopaths like our leadership, oh yeah, Russell I have said over and over and over again, Major, on this channel, that we have to listen to people who are on the ground. Right? What was I saying during the whole COVID period? Right? When there was all this vaccine skepticism and all this kind of stuff. Listen to your doctors and listen to your nurses. They're the people who are on the front line. That's the front line that you have to listen to what they're saying. Well, Russell Bentley is the perfect person, because he's not, like, he's the perfect person for Westerners to listen to. He's a Texan, right? Like, he's as Caucasian as they come, right? Like, he's a white dude from Texas that moves to Donbass in order to fight Nazis, because, as he says it, he couldn't live with himself as an American to not do so. Like, the man's a true hero, if you ask me, and and he's the perfect vessel. He's the perfect correspondent for Westerners to listen to. Because they're not going to listen to Russians, right? They're not going to listen to Russians or people of color or anything like this. They're going to listen to a white Texan, Texaner, Texanist, Texanite, Texaner, Texonian, Texan. Yeah, Texan. I did it. I got there. I just saw a headline saying that Putin is using threat to send nukes. Not sure if it's true or not. Putin has spoken to the people responsible for maintaining the nuclear arsenal, and he has said to put the nuclear arsenal on alert. That is true. Like, that's true. Hey, Branwyn, how you doing? So, and I think a lot of that is signaling, right? Patrick Lancaster. Here you go. There's another one. Let's go. Oh, I've been seeing pictures of this guy. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to hang on to this guy and maybe do a video on him too. Because the video that I just put up of this Russell Bentley thing, it's already got like 200 views. Which for my videos is a lot, right? And given how quickly I put it up like an hour and a half ago, So I think there's a hunger. People want to know what's going on, right? That the knee-jerk reaction was very much like, we support Ukraine, which is essentially like, please God, no nukes. Like, just no nukes. Like, that's really what it comes down to for us. And now we are going to begin getting into, okay, what's actually happening there, right? And so the knee-jerk reaction is understandable because I think you've got a society of people who just don't know anything about that, about what's happening. And then suddenly everybody's head snaps in a direction because Putin invades Russia is the headline. And it's easy for us to just be like, Putin, bad man, right? And it's Danny Haifong. Of course Danny Haifong does. Danny Haifong's a champion. Lots of BS reactions. What for you go? Send the short clip in Discord. What do we got?
Only a genius will know what's wrong. I think it's pretty obvious they messed it up completely when they put on that bracelet. They should not have put it on if there was the drivers are wearing a seatbelt. There isn't even a car! Only a genius.
All right, bud. I love it. Thanks, Barnabas, man. I need it. I need the levity. For sure I do. And so I think that people are starting... One of the things that I have observed, and I am starting to observe, like, I think that it took the populace like decades to turn around on itself. Whereas I think our society, because of how much propaganda we're inflicted with, and because we know that we get lied to a lot, we're willing to turn the corner quicker. Like, people are willing to say, like, I support Ukraine, and then if you're like, yeah, but okay, but like, here's what's going on, I think they're more willing to like turn the corner and believe it. You know, I think they're more willing to believe it because, so if I wanted to give humanity a break and stop busting their balls so much, especially Westerners, I would say this reaction, this initial knee-jerk reaction is completely understandable, like completely understandable. But we gotta, like, and I hope that we're gonna come to a point in the same way that happened in Iraq, right? Like, it's like we're watching what happened with Iraq, but even faster, you know, that we went into Iraq and there was like this anti-war sentiment, but people were like, yeah, he's got weapons of mass destruction, and it was like a total fucking lie. And there was this like heightened rhetoric and all this kind of stuff. It was all crazy. And then as things started to settle down, we began to see more and more that, oh, that was a fucking lie. And it became obvious that it was a lie. And yeah, Ryan saying read Marx, fantastic, good, a good thing for everybody to do. And so, if we don't actually, what the fuck was I gonna say? Oh well, doesn't matter. Oh, I think we can get there faster, like, and I think we can get to the point where the culture generally accepts that, oh, the Americans were fomenting a war in the Donbass region by funding neo-Nazi groups. Like, we can get there faster than it took for the WMD conversation, even. And, like, I actually think that at the end of the day, America's going to get everything it wants out of this war. Like, that's the thing, is that America's going to... this war is about it's two-pronged. And they're not going to get prong number one, but they'll get prong number two. Prong number one is the destruction of Russia, right? Like, that's prong number one for sure. They're not going to get that. Like, Ukraine is not joining NATO. Like, that's not on the table, right? Russia has made it very clear that that's not on the table. So unless the Americans really want to press the issue and just go full-scale Nazi, which they could, right? Probably not going to happen. But prong number two is definitely going to happen, which is that America's allies, which are essentially the NATO nations, will be forced to pivot towards America. That Russia has been providing gas to Europe and Canada for for forever, right? And now that's going to get cut off. Right? There's going to be sanctions on that. That kind of stuff's going to get cut off. And it's going to force the European nations to pivot towards America in order to get their resources, including things like gas and oil, right? It's going to be a pretty major hardship for the Europeans because the Americans are charging far more for their gas than the Russians are. But that in the geopolitical system, like the Americans are concerned that they're going to lose Europe. And so they're using this moment to solidify allegiances and solidify trade ties and cut trade ties from Russia, which ultimately cuts trade ties to who, right? China, which is the end game here for America for sure. Yeah, I heard diesel in some places in the U.S. is $5 a gallon. Yeah, yep. And America has not done a good job of getting electric infrastructure in place, right? Like, the end game goal for any nation that has any sense in their head at all has got to be getting off of all of these fuels, right? Like getting electrical stuff, like tying your resource base, like get off of these like gas and all this stuff. Get into a what's being called a renewable energy system, but like use the sun. Like this is the thing that kills me. The world itself is littered with examples of life forms that literally just go, the sun, and that's how they do, right? And we seem completely resistant to this. Like any gains that we have made in solar or wind or any of this stuff, any gains we have made have been hard fought and hard pushed towards. How did the ruble collapse? That's straight up just like the world bailing on it. That's all. Like like currencies and like trade stock options and stuff like this are all rich people feelings, right? So they're just like, boo Russia, and so down it goes. And like Putin knows, which again, like that's not actually that big a deal for Russia, honestly. Like for Russia, this is going to swing them towards China pretty heavily. Like pretty heavily, out of complete necessity, that China and Russia are going to basically just like tighten up. China's been doing a really good job of staying out of it. Their position on these sorts of conflicts is that this is a conflict between these nations, and we don't have the right, nor should we be involved in it, which is why they've been abstaining on a lot of things. Like a lot of votes and a lot of stuff have been coming up in the UN, and their position is just abstention. Because the Chinese position when it comes to wars and things like this is simply, you guys got to deal with this. Like we're not gonna spend time or resources getting involved in it. And is that completely accurate? Probably not. Like China's probably funneling some kind of resource help towards Russia. Like I mean, I think Russia is absolutely a crucial part of China's geopolitical strategy, without a doubt. Like, they're basically bros, right? Like, Russia and China are basically bros caught in the same kind of problem, right? And they're doing everything they can to make sure that, like, to try to ease this transition and ease this moment. But, you know, at the end of the day, and Russia and Putin understands this about China, that China needs to look at its own interests, and Putin thinks the same way about himself, right? So it's a fascinating moment for sure. Have you seen the video on how Africa is treating Africans? They left Africans at a train station. I mean, are we surprised? More and more and more, right? This narrative that Ukrainians, like, sure, there's neo-Nazis, but it's not all Ukrainians. Like, okay, there's a lot of Ukrainians that are turning a blind eye to these Nazis. Like, that's really what it is they're turning a blind, they're just turning a blind eye and then pretending like, how, I can't believe there's Nazis, right? Like, I've been having interesting conversations with people. Interestingly, dude, the weirdest conversations that I'm having. I subscribe to a subreddit called March Against Nazis, right? And these guys do not care about the Azov Battalion at all. Like, they won't talk about it. They won't report on it. They'll downvote stuff if you point out that there are Nazis in Ukraine. Like, It's just like, yeah, Azov Battalion started as a volunteer civilian formation, absolutely, and like, and these guys are bending over backwards to like try to paint Putin as the real Nazi. And I've actually got a article here that one of them sent me. It's the best article that they've sent me in the whole thing. And the article basically is like a lot of shade throwing. And the reason why I give it some credibility to those is that it balances it. It admits what the United States has done, while simultaneously being like, Russia's not clean in this. And I wanted to report on this, and I think I'm going to read this now, because it is important for us to have a clear head about who Putin actually is, and to not fall into, like, we can't just like fall on his side and be like, Putin's good, right? Like, that's not what we're here to do. We should have a nuanced approach about what is happening and who Putin actually is. And I think an article like this is worth reading. This comes from Just Security. I've looked around a little bit, and I can't seem to find too much information about this organization. So if somebody knows anything about this organization, Just Security, please pass it down, because that does matter. Who's funding this? Who's backing this? Right? And the real answer, and I want to be really upfront with this as I read this, I don't really know who these guys actually are. Right? Like, I can go to the About page and they'll be like, we're a group of lawyers and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, great. But like, are you, in the end, are you backed by like the Rockefellers? Are you backed by like the Kochs? Right? Like, what's the angle here? And so anyway, in any case, with that disclaimer, I'm going to read this. Did you see the post I posted on Discord talk about the issue of the Wagner Group and the Nazbol organization inside of Putin's inner circle? I missed that one, Eric. Let me see if I can find it, because I do care about this. Like, I mean, if Putin is also tied in with Nazi groups, it matters, right? It actually matters to the conversation quite a lot. In my signs of neo-Nazi ideology amongst, was this? Yes. Okay. Let's take a look at it, because it matters a lot to me. Like, it matters a lot that we maintain a clear idea on this. So let me read this, and then we're going to take a look at that. And just as a disclaimer as well, my position is, like, yeah, obviously there are Nazis in Russia. Like, obviously that's the case. I wouldn't be blown away to find out that there are Nazis in the mercenary groups that are part of the planning that the Russians are using and all that kind of stuff. The line in the sand, and I'm trying to be as clear as I can be with this, because Canada has Nazis, America has Nazis, Nazis are everywhere, right? You can't do a war on terror rhetoric with this, right? If you try to be like, we've got to purge the world of Nazis, then you'll be at war forever, right? So the line in the sand that I draw, and it is a line in the sand that I'm willing to draw, I'm willing to bite the bullet and draw this line in the sand, is that I refuse to accept Nazis being integrated into state apparatus, okay? The military and the government. That's the line in the sand. That, yes, I'm absolutely positive that there are mercenary groups that have Nazis within them. I'm absolutely positive about that, right? I'm absolutely positive that many nations, Russia included, have used these mercenary groups who have Nazis as in their membership. I'm absolutely positive about that, right? But this is the shittiness of the conversation that we need to have. And where are we willing to draw our line in the sand? And I am willing to draw the line in the sand at, if you are allowing Nazis in the official state apparatus, like Nazis are part of your actual military. It's not a mercenary group off on the side that has members, right? It's part of your military apparatus. They're part of your government, right? And I think that that is a fair line in the sand to draw without acting as a Nazi apologist. Like, that's... And I'm willing to be challenged on this and pushed around on this, because this is such a difficult conversation, and I feel like everybody's opinions are still growing, and we're still learning about all of this. So far, though, Like, until people are willing to actually talk about the Donbass war at all and how that war came to be and all of that kind of stuff, it's very difficult to actually have this conversation meaningfully. Because I've been having conversations with people who are like, Putin is a Nazi supporter. No, there's no Donbass war. No, there's no neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Like, I have been having legitimate conversations like that. So it makes it a very difficult thing a difficult conversation to have. Anyway, let me read this article, and then we can talk about the article. The reason I came into the Discord is because I can be a little more open with my views. Things I want. Yeah, absolutely, bud. And I understand that, dude. I completely understand that. Like, I get why people want to be a bit secretive about this. Like, I understand. That's why I try. I don't really, like, thank Patreons, right? I don't really, like, go out of my way to shine light on who's funding me because of this reason. Because of this, like, I don't want you guys to get fucked over. Like, it's highly likely that I will be at some point, right? It's pretty likely, I think. So I'm trying to make sure you guys don't get hit by it too. Okay. A member of the neo-Nazi terror network, The Base, told a federal prosecutor in December that he believed the group's leader, known then as Norman Spear, was a Russian spy. 1 month later, The Guardian revealed Spear's true name to be Ronaldo Nazaro and presented evidence that Nazaro lives in Russia. BBC subsequently reported that Nazaro was listed as a guest at the 2019 Russia Government Security Exhibition, which focused on the demonstration of the results of state policy and achievement. Though Nazaro's relationship with the Russian government remains uncertain, these reports point to a broader trend. I mean, before I move on, right? So basically they start with the Russians infiltrated a well-known neo-Nazi group and installed their own man as the leader of said neo-Nazi group. That's not Nazi collaboration. That looks like infiltration to me, right? And even the article itself is saying, like, it remains uncertain. Yeah, you don't know what's going on there. Is that collaboration or is that infiltration? Like, you think that Putin shouldn't try to infiltrate known neo-Nazi groups within his own country and install his own people there? Like, okay. A mutual affection between Western... Oh, yeah, and here's the broader trend. A mutual affection between Western white supremacists and the Russian government. I mean, he's a spy. Anyway, it also highlights the reality that the distinction between foreign terrorism and so-called domestic terrorism is increasingly irrelevant. Dating back to 2004, David Duke characterized Russia as the key to white survival. And American white supremacist Richard Spencer recently identified Russia as the sole white power in the world. Both Jared Taylor, founder of the white supremacist outlet American Renaissance, and Matthew Heimbach, a Unite the Right organizer and leader of the now defunct Traditionalist Workers' Party, have met in person with ultra-nationalist Russian political leaders in 2015 and 2017, respectively. For its part, the Russian government has exploited this interest. It has both turned a blind eye to far-right paramilitarism within its own borders and actively cultivated neo-Nazism in the West. I mean, source required. These decisions align with its broader project to sow discord in Western democracies and influence transcontinental relations, despite its relatively weak military and economy. Russian President Vladimir Putin's support for right-wing violence in the West constitutes an element in his broader destabilization campaign. In the United States especially, white supremacist terrorists act upon an ideology that is deeply rooted in the country's history of racist violence. The United States and its Western allies, therefore, must confront the issue of white supremacist terrorism at home and work towards the long overdue recalibration of counterterrorism priorities. But while the United States and its partners must confront this problem at home, they also must remember that hostile foreign powers have exploited homegrown racism for decades. Moreover, as Western counterterrorism efforts against white supremacist violence continue to ramp up, U.S. authorities, for example, have arrested 7 members of the base and a leader of the Unite the Right rally in recent weeks. Extremists and aspiring terrorists may seek refuge in a more permissive environment, exacerbating the problem of Russian support. I love it. Like, we got to take a look at at our own Western racism, but it's really the Russians that are the problem. To degrade existing links between Western extremists and Russian actors and prevent the further formation of these connections, the United States and its partners must bolster their diplomatic capacity to confront this threat on a global scale. Here, we assess the current nexus between Western right-wing extremists and Russian actors at the state and non-state level. To be clear, we do not have a complete picture of these connections. Further work, from investigative reporting to intelligence sharing, is necessary to discern the scale of links between Western extremists and Russian actors. The counterterrorism community, however, must proactively work to understand this threat to prevent its further growth. So far, like a lot of shade throwing, right? A culture of permissiveness. In 2014, the same year that Nazis were invading Donbass, the ultra-nationalist political organization Russian Imperial Movement began training volunteers to fight alongside its paramilitary wing in eastern Ukraine, right? The Donbass War. But the group has since expanded its operations to include global ambitions. According to the group's spokesperson, RIM seeks to continue to establish contacts with right-wing traditionalist and conservative organizations around the world in order to share the experience of political and information warfare and joint squads tactic training. Most prominently, RIM has worked alongside the Russian political party Rodina, known as the Motherland National Patriotic Union, to convene the World National Conservative Movement, a conference organized against the principles of liberalism, multiculturalism, and tolerance. So, the complaint here is that there's a Republican Party in Russia. WNCM's organizers, however, sought to move beyond ideological exchanges and established joint campaign camps for military and athletic instruction. Now, through its paramilitary arm, Imperial Legion, RIM carries out week-long military-style training sessions known as Partisan. Led by a former member of the Russian Armed Forces, this program teaches cadets to operate firearms and move in tactical formations. So, they're a militia group. In recent years, RIM's terrorist training has proven deadly. Months before bombing a refugee center in Gothenburg, Sweden, the two perpetrators source needed. The two perpetrators attended RIM's partisan training camp. According to this prosecutor handling the case, that's probably it right there, attendance at the paramilitary camp at St. Petersburg was a key step in the bombers' radicalization, and may be the place where they learned to manufacture the bombs that they used in Gothenburg. Both men had a history with Nordic resistant movement, though it appears that each had moved on from the organization. Despite the fact that these Swedish terrorists split with the NRM prior to their attack, the group has maintained its own troubling relationship with RIM. So, we're being told that there was a terrorist group that split from this militia group and did its own thing. Okay. That's what happens. In 2015, an RIM leader traveled to Sweden to speak at an NRM-hosted event called Nordic Days, and RIM has reportedly provided very modest financial support to its Nordic allies. Notably, NRM operates a Russian language page with more than 2,000 members on the social media platform VK, according to the investigative journalism outlet Hate Speech International. So again, this is like, I feel like I'm being told like a borderline story. Do you know what I mean? Where like, here's a militia group, they've got like right-wing views, they're tied in with fairly right-wing conservative views. They're not flying Nazi flags. Right? Like, they're not flying Nazi flags. Their connection to the state is tenuous at best. Like, literally, the Russian state has talked to these guys. And that's the concern. It isn't that they're embedded in the Russian military or that they are part of the state infrastructure. It's that here's a group that might be Nazis, and Russia has talked to them a couple of times. Like, that's what I'm seeing here, right? Am I crazy? Like, am I fucking crazy? The November 2018 National Strategy for Counterterrorism of the United States lists the Nordic Resistant Movement as a prominent transnational, self-described nationalist socialist organization with anti-Western views. What poses a threat, particularly to Europe, because of its propensity, I mean, National Socialist isn't great. that poses a threat particularly to Europe because of its propensity to use violence and its intent to destabilize societies. I mean, sounds like America to me. The relationship between the Nordic resistance movement and RIM reflects the transnational nature of right-wing extremism and acts as a reminder of how cross-border relationships can enhance the threat of terrorism. As political science scientists Michael Horowitz and Philip Potter contend, oh dear. I hope that's not symbolic. All right. Organizations increase group capacity. Oh no, my poor Canadian flag. Okay. I'll have to fix that later. What then is the connection between RIM's transnational activities and Putin's desire to undermine Western democracy? I mean, one thing I love about this article is like, does Putin have a desire to undermine Western democracy? Like, source needed, right? Like, obviously Putin is interested in defeating his enemies, but all I've ever seen him say about his current actions is that he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. He thinks that we should abide by the Minsk Accords, that the borders of NATO should push back, and that no further membership into NATO should be allowed, right? Those are sort of his positions. Like, I feel like we're getting into like Russiagate territory here, right? This like widely debunked claim that Trump was supported by the Kremlin. Like, because Trump doesn't think that Putin is evil, right? Like that seems to be the big sin. Wagner Group's considered founder is said to be a neo-Nazi. He sure has crossed. Anytime I ask for any sources regarding the Wagner Group's Nazism or anything that they've done, no one can provide me anything, and I can't find anything. So like, I can't have a response to it because I don't know anything about it, because no one wants to give me anything, no one wants to support any of their claims, and no one wants to actually back anything with anything, right? So I literally don't know anything about the Wagner Group, and until someone wants to provide me with information on that, I can't move forward, because trust me, bro, is not good enough for me. Okay. According to Alexander Verkovsky, director of the Moscow-based Sova Center for Information and Analysis, Russian authorities knowingly tolerate RIM's paramilitary camps. The Kremlin does not directly support RIM. I mean, there you are, right? Like this is, in my view, the deciding line, right? Like they're not part of the state apparatus. They're not part of the military. So like, can you find these sorts of groups in every country? Yeah, you can find these kinds of groups in every country. Like, does that mean we should have like a war against them? No, because they're not part of the state apparatus. They're not making law. They're not ethnically cleansing anybody, right? Do they suck? Yeah. Well, welcome to being part of humanity. But it does nothing to combat the group's violent activities besides infiltrating their ranks and installing their own leadership. You notice this? The article itself talked about that right at the start. So like, in infiltrating their own ranks and installing their own leadership isn't doing anything to combat the group's violent activities. Okay, interesting. Despite knowledge of their operations, as former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Michael Carpenter characterized the situation, RIM's paramilitary arm operates freely in Russia. Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, okay. The lack of counterterrorism pressure from domestic forces in Russia allows the organization to form alliances with extremists across Europe and the United States, enhancing the overall threat of right-wing extremism. This has a real Russiagate feel about it, right? Source required, like source needed. Like literally all they've got is like David Duke said something nice about him. It's like, yeah, I don't really care about like David Duke's opinion on Russia. Got to be really straightforward about this. Like, David Duke is not a bastion of intellectualism, and his perception is, of course, going to be like a white supremacist perspective. So, like, it's like if Jeffrey Dahmer said that he liked Mother Teresa. I don't know, Mother Teresa's a bad example, but like if Jeffrey Dahmer said that he liked, I don't know, like Mother Teresa, wouldn't really change my opinion. of Mother Teresa, right? It makes me kind of look more at Jeffrey Dahmer and go like, huh, Jeffrey Dahmer. It's got some complexity going on there. Anyway. Russians... sorry. The Kremlin has an incentive to turn a blind eye to the group because of RIM's role in helping to recruit Russians to fight in eastern Ukraine. Again, they're not really talking about the Donbass war here, right? It's worth noting, however, that the conflict has also attracted white supremacist foreign fighters to fight with Ukrainians against Russia, right? So, like, as a footnote, they're going to point out that, oh yeah, by the way, there are Nazis in Ukraine, and they're part of the actual state. Should Putin invade Canada since we gave state support to those fascist battalions? I mean, that's more or less what's going on right now, bud. Like, he can't invade Canada. Like, that's beside the point. Not seeing MAGA chuds speak out about Russia so far. It seems like the status quo Dems screaming the loudest about Russia. Well, that makes sense. First of all, I don't think I've seen you around here, Contan, so good to see you. And it makes sense that it would be the Democrats doing it because for the last, 4 years at least, 5-6 years now, they've been pounding the drum on Russiagate, right? Like, this has been their big play against, Hillary lost because Donald Trump is in bed with the Kremlin, right? Like, that's the narrative that we've been getting out of the Democrats. So it makes complete and total sense that the Democrats would be the ones to really be pounding the drum of war rhetoric right now because they're the ones who have been focusing on... they're the ones that have been focusing on Russia the most, right? It makes total sense. But let's not fool ourselves, man. Like, if the roles were reversed, the narrative would be reversed. Like, no, should not do it on principle. Come on now. Let's not. We're trying to be a clear-headed group here. Would it be a good thing for Putin to? Obviously not. Obviously not. For lots of tons and tons of reasons. Especially for him, it would be a bad move for him. Just geopolitically, it would be a totally terrible move for him. Right? It doesn't make sense. It would be impossible to describe to the populace. Right? The Donbass war is going to break through. The Donbass war is going to punch through. People are going to come to learn about the Donbass war, about the neo-Nazism that exists within the Ukrainian government. This story is going to come out. It is going to come out. And when that story comes out, it's going to color the public perception, for sure. But if Russia were to invade Canada, there's nothing they could say. And this narrative of Canada has funded neo-Nazi groups to foment the answer would be that, well, then fight that war, right? Yes, it's shitty that Canada did that, but no one would accept it. No one would accept it. China wouldn't accept it. And also it's just a bad strategic move. It's just a bad move, on all fronts. There's no saving grace to it whatsoever. So, does Putin, and Putin doesn't really have a Cassius Belli on Canada. It doesn't have claim to any of its territory. It does have a claim on the territory that exists within Ukraine. The Donbass region has declared its independence. Putin has acknowledged that. It's full of Russian-speaking people. It's full of people who used to be part of Russia. So, what Putin operating within that region makes sense, right? And it makes sense that he would be able to operate upon his own borders, right? And especially for his own national security. But the idea that he's going to get forces to Canada, I mean, come on, let's not be ridiculous when we're having these conversations, man. You're not muted, Grinning. You're here, bud. Hi. You probably are saying something that doesn't for Russia to get troops here, which is what we're talking about, right? This is the Donbass region. Well, there's Moscow. Here's Russia, right? They got troops into Belarus as well, so they've got it surrounded here. Especially right now, they've probably got the algorithm on high alert right now, dude. For sure. I mean, and it makes sense, right? Oh, excuse me. So this makes sense from like a strategic position. This is where the fighting is. This is where the citizens are. This is what's going on. But for Moscow to attack Canada, how's it going to do it? Like, how's it going to do it? Like, so it's like I guess it's going to launch. Like, it'd have to launch an attack in Africa or Alaska, I guess. If it needs to go around Alaska, it's going to go like up this way, come around this way. Maybe there's like some kind of legitimacy to say that it could launch an attack like around, like through the North Pole down into Canada, right? Maybe get into like Greenland, start taking this territory. Like it's a bad play. It's a bad play across the board. Like and Russia doesn't have the military strength to be able to wage a sea battle. That if it started putting boats in the water to go over to Canada, right? America's going to blow them out of the water. Like, it's not going to be close. And Russia's well aware of it. Like, Russia's picking the battle that it can win. And will win, if you ask me. Like, this if you take a look at the Georgia conflict, right? Which Google is still pretending like this territory is somehow... the politically correct term is spookiest. That's right. Thank you, Content. Content, you've only been here for like... 5-10 minutes and already high quality commentary, friend. Let's go. Yeah, no kidding, eh? Like, I'm with you on that, Ligandese. I wish somebody put these genocidal settler colonial state in its place, though. I mean, tough. We're gonna do it to ourselves. That's what it comes down to. We're gonna do it to ourselves. Like, you don't do this kind of warfare abroad and not have it come home. It always comes home, always, right? Yeah, test that algorithm, baby. Test it. Anyway, when they went into Georgia, and I don't really know that much about the Georgia conflict, so I don't want to comment on the veracity of it. He seized this territory and this territory, right? And this territory is essentially part of Russia now, right? Google Maps doing its due diligence to the imperial state by pretending like these sections don't matter. He's going to do the same thing here in Ukraine. That the Donbass region, right here, is going to become part of the Soviet Union. It's going to become part of Russia. It's the Soviet Union, part of Russia. An interesting video. Okay, let me finish this article. I'm all over the fucking place right now. Though the Kremlin's support for RIM only amounts to tacit approval, right? Like, even this article itself is saying that, like, yeah, we don't have any, like, actual connection. Like, this is all shade. Like, it's all shade, right? Russian intelligence officials have directly interacted with other far-right groups, such as the Hungarian National Front, a neo-Nazi parliamentary organization. A Hungarian National Front began to exhibit affinity for the Kremlin when its leader, Istvan Gyorkos, launched a website to promote a pro-Putin message. I mean, is it in the interests of Hungarians? Why am I fucking losing my... Yeah, I knew fucking... Like, anyway. I don't care that much about that right now. The connection between the Hungarian National Front, so literally, like, a far-right group in Hungary is like hooray Putin. So I'm suddenly supposed to lose my mind about it. Given this understanding of Russia's complicity in this growing threat, how might Western officials address the Kremlin's action and inaction with regards to right-wing violence? First, and this is where the article gets credible, if you ask me. This is the reason why I'm reading this to you guys, okay? So we saw lots of shade throwing, and there's lots of complexity, and there's lots of that going on. First, the United States and its partners must lead by example. The West will have no credibility in condemning Russia's soft stance on right-wing extremism if it cannot demonstrate a willingness to act seriously and combat the threat itself. In a time when elected officials hire unabashed extremists as senior advisors, parrot extremist talking points, laud the merits of white nationalism, and cover up their meetings with far-right extremists, the West has a long way to go in building its own legitimacy to call out other states. This necessary step includes adopting long overdue policy measures to combat the threat of right-wing terrorism. In the United States, lawmakers should adopt policies that boost resources for domestic terrorism prevention and aim to reduce the lethality of terrorist attacks. For example, Joshua Geltzer has suggested that the National Counterterrorism Center should be empowered to provide analysis of the nature and direction of the white supremacist threat as a whole, rather than trying to distinguish between the international and domestic aspects of transnational threat. Lawmakers must also embrace interventions that precede the threshold for legal investigation. In recent congressional testimony, terrorism experts advocated for expanding funding for community partners, such as non-law enforcement resources inside schools. Moreover, the Department of Defense should improve screening efforts to ensure white supremacists cannot infiltrate the military, as was stipulated in the House's version of the most recent National Defense Authoritarian Act before an alteration in the Senate removed the provision. Congress could also improve data collection efforts by passing the No Hate Act, the Domestic and International Terrorism Data Act, and the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act, which would appropriate resources to help the national security community better understand the threat of white supremacist terrorism. I mean, it's interesting that this article is like really winding on this, like, we need resources to find out what the cause is, and it's like, you abandon people to the streets. Like, to me, this is very clear. Like, this is very clear cut. If you create a desperate population will turn to those who exhibit strength. That's what happens, right? It's no surprise that the rise of white supremacy and the rise of Nazism in America is linked to the decline in quality of life, right? Like, people are desperate and are turning to desperate measures and desperate means. And because they don't have a critical analysis of their society, they don't understand that they've been taken over by an oligarchy, right? Well, then they can be directed towards really stupid things. Like, yeah, it was those immigrants that took our jobs. That's what did it. Like, with regards to reducing lethality, scholars and policy experts agree. Ease of access to firearms in the United States exacerbates the threat of terrorism. In addition to common sense background checks, Congress should pass red flag laws on a national level and also adopt the Disarm Hate Act, which would prohibit individuals who have been convicted of misdemeanor level hate crimes from buying or possessing guns. It is also critical to note that the white supremacist extremism is not a threat conjured up by far-off Russian boogeymen, but rather is America's original sin. In fact, it has often been white supremacist extremists within the United States who have supported their ideology and violence across the globe. Recognizing this reality and addressing this challenge at home are necessary preconditions to confront the role that state actors play on this threat across the globe. As I'm reading this, it's becoming really clear to me that it's actually written in such a way so that they can have credibility to actually talk to the Republicans in America, right? That they're like, yes, here's all the Russian look at Russia. Look at its white supremacist problems and all of this. Now. And then they're like talking about what we can do, right? And what can we do? Well, we can confront it at home, right? Which I think that's as credible as it is. So they throw shade at Russia to get the Republican on board, being like, yeah, white supremacy is bad. Good point, when the Russians do it. And then you turn and you go, but we're also very much, like, also doing it. Like we have something called America's original sin. Like, that's something we should probably confront, right? And it's worth pointing out again, this is what these guys are showing me. Right? Like, this is what the people who are denying the Azov Battalion's importance, denying the Donbass War, denying all the existence of this 8-year conflict, the Maidan coup, like, and trying to point at me and saying that, like, no, Putin is the true Nazi. This is what they give me. Like, this is the best they've got. So it's like, oh, okay, this is where we're at in the conversation. Where, like, literally a subreddit that is called March Against Nazis is ignoring actual state-funded Nazism in order to give me this article that's like, Putin talked to Nazis sometimes. Yeah, lots of bandage solutions for sure. For sure. No, you're absolutely right about that. Uh, so yeah, like our recommendations are not limited to confronting Russia's role in the threat, and indeed could serve as a foundation for a broader diplomatic effort. As previously discussed, Ukraine's Azov Battalion has actively recruited foreign fighters from Atomwaffen Division and the Rise Above movement. Our partners should not be absolved of responsibility, and indeed may prove more receptive to these types of diplomatic efforts. And like, this is what they're giving me. You know? So, anyway, like this is the big condemnation towards Putin that these guys are giving me. Like an article that's basically like, yeah, Putin infiltrated a Nazi group and put in a spy, and also has talked to them. And some white supremacists said that they liked Putin. So that's the same as integrating a battalion of Nazis into your military and having Nazis be part of your government apparatus. I just never thought that this channel was going to become this, guys. Honestly, I never actually thought I was going to have to sit here and be like, okay, let's have a conversation about why Nazis are bad. Hey guys, Nazis are bad. Did you know? And okay, but like, there's a difference between a state-funded and infiltrated, like not infiltrated, but just integrated Nazi division into the military and government officials who are Nazis and like dealing with Nazis in your society, right? Like there's a pretty big difference. And my favorite part about the article, this article that they gave me, is that it's like, Russia hasn't done anything about its Nazi problem. And I'm like, but you literally just told me about how they like infiltrated they infiltrate the base and get their own spy as the leader. Like, if that was the Americans, if there was like an American Nazi group, right? And the Nazi group, like the Ku Klux Klan, here you go. So if there was a Ku Klux Klan and the CIA infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan and put in their own guy as the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, right? And this came out, Americans would be like, fuck yeah, infiltrate that Ku Klux Klan, fuck them over from the inside. That's exactly how they would talk. But if Russia does it, it must be because they want to take it over and work with the neo-Nazis. Then why infiltrate them? Why infiltrate them at all? If your objective is to just work with these guys and have them do what you say, then just do it. Why infiltrate them? And incidentally, holy shit, that's baller. This Ronaldo Nazzaro, are you kidding me? This dude infiltrated a neo-Nazi group and then became its leader? Bro, that's like some like we've all seen this movie where the police have like infiltrated groups. He hasn't just talked to them, he's used them as private mercenary group in Syria and Africa. So, I mean, source needed is what I'm going to say on that. Like, source required. Because the hard truth about war is that mercenaries get used. Everyone uses mercenaries, right? And like, are we using like a Nazi battalion, a Nazi military group? Or are we using a mercenary group and there are we using a mercenary groups for which there are Nazis within? Like, I understand that this sounds like splitting hairs, but this is what we're talking about. Like, there are hard lines to be drawn in the sand on this issue. Like, and it sucks that that's the truth. Like, that's how in decline we are as a species and as a people. Like, that we have to, like, have degrees of Nazism. Like, I prefer woke mercenaries. Exactly. That's the best statement ever, Grinning. Like, would it be better if they were, like, you know, like rainbow mercenaries, you know? Like, mercenaries are fucking mercenaries. Machiavelli has great conversations, by the way, about mercenaries and their usefulness. Like, mercenaries are actually really not good to use. Like, They're disloyal. They only care about treasure, like money. They only really truly serve one purpose, which is to suppress a lesser foe, right? So if there isn't really a big military threat in a region, but you're worried about like an uprising occurring, put a mercenary group in there, right? And the mercenaries will make sure that things stay stable because these guys can't really fight back. And there's the mercenaries doing what they do. But if a mercenary group needs to go into combat and even fight an equal foe, they'll run. Like, they'll just leave. And there's even historical precedent for mercenaries switching sides in the middle of conflicts, right? Because they want to be on the side of the winner. And they're completely opportunistic. Like, they're completely opportunistic. And, like, and so mercenaries are like chaos writ large. Like, you are playing with fire when you're playing with mercenary groups, and that's always been the case. And again, the clear-cut line in the sand that I think does need to be drawn is that there is a sharp difference between what we're describing here with mercenary groups, right, and having a battalion of Nazis in your military and state infrastructure. Like, this is what and it is a distinction to be used, right? And again, Putin is a Tsar, right? He's a petty king. Like, I would not be blown away at all to find out that, like, yeah, here's a Nazi mercenary group, and because it was opportunistic for him to use it, he threw them against whatever to do a thing, right? Still sharply different than they're integrated into the Russian military, right? Like, that's a very different thing, and crosses the line from opportunistic to ideological. Like, that's what the difference is in my view. That there's a difference between opportunism and ideology, and the Ukrainians crossed that line. For sure they did. For sure they did. Funny, when the KKK was most prevalent, it was the conservative who supported them the most. Even libertarians supported them because of their economic policies. Yeah. There's a quote from Friedrich Hayek where he stated there's nothing wrong with their economic policy. Man, I love that fucking people are still throwing Hayek around as if he's credible at all. Like, yeah, I'm a Ku Klux Klan apologist. I should be listened to. Baked potato. Hey, John, I've been completely censored for making comments on your videos. Yeah, I don't know. There's no rhyme and reason to it, Baked Potato. I don't know if I've ever seen you around here, though. Good to see you. Hope you're here to contribute in a meaningful way, bud, because we're trying to be a really solidarity-based group. I wonder how Russia will survive now that their currency is almost worthless. So, beer drinker, you're raising a really interesting point, right? Their currency is worthless internationally. Right? It's worthless within the SWIFT banking system is what it's called, right? So if you are in Europe, Canada, the United States, and Australia, that money isn't going to be worth anything. But Russia has pretty significant ties to China, has pretty significant ties more and more across the Middle East. The Belt and Road Initiative, which isn't getting talked about at all in all of this, by the way, right? The Belt and Road Initiative, in my view, is absolutely crucial to understanding what's going on. And I haven't even taken the opportunity, right? There's a rail that runs from China, right? From China into Russia, through Moscow, into Belarus, into Minsk, into Warsaw, and then into the rest of Europe, right? Part of the sanctions and part of the idea of getting to this place is to make sure that we can create sanctions between Minsk and Warsaw, right? So that the Belt and Road Initiative will be sanctioned, which in turn turns the Europeans towards America. Because it has to, right? They have basically the goal of America at this stage in the game is to give Europe no other options, right? Make sure Europe can't go anywhere else. That's the objective here, the umbrella objective of all of this, right? And But Russia is still going to be able to trade fine with China. Why? Because Russia and China have their own systems, right? They've integrated their own systems. They've even created their own currency called the renminbi, right? And the decline of the ruble, it will probably chase more citizens towards the renminbi, right? So like Russia and like again, money isn't real, right? It's not the money that matters, right? It's not the money that matters. It's the actual hard goods that matter. It's the actual hard assets that matter, right? And as long as Russia can grow food, feed its citizens, as long as it has shelter, as long as it has these things and the capacity to provide goods for their citizens, which they will, because they have a strong thing going here with China, who's the manufacturing base of the world, right? So what this is going to do is it's going to pivot Europe away from Russia towards America, and it's going to pivot Russia away from Europe towards China, right? And China, along with Russia, but China really is like the one who is thrusting forward with this, is doing everything it can, to build up what's called the third world, the developing world, or the global south. Right? So it's essentially going to create its own trading partners, and it's essentially going to create its own allies and its own infrastructure throughout Africa, throughout the Middle East, and also South America seems to be pivoting in that direction too. Right? And all of this, because of white supremacy and because of our overarching arrogance, like, what's annoying about all of this is like we could get in on all of this. Like this is the thing that really annoys me about this whole thing. Is like we could look at what China is doing and be like, "Oh yeah, we could just like build up this place and trade with everybody and everything would be fine." But it all does boil down to a very simple principle, right? It's a very, very simple capitalist principle. You do all the work, we do nothing. That's the principle. And America is not interested in joining the world community, the global community, while doing any work. Like, do you know the Mercenary song by Steve Earle? I do not. Ryan's right. I don't know if this is fine to play, so I gotta stop. But beautiful song so far. All of the capital exists in the West. False. Also, Ryan, don't worry about that. Worst thing that happens, I don't get strikes if I play something. That what'll happen is that the channel will get shut down, and I will, and then once I stop playing it, it'll come back online. So it's not good from a viewership perspective because then a bunch of people drop out because they're like, oh, channel got shut down, right? But I don't get strikes. There's no long-term consequences, right? So that seems to be the YouTube compromise, that we will shut you down temporarily until it's gone, but we're not going to give you a real punishment, right? Because how could I know, right? And what's annoying to me about this is that it's a YouTube video, right? Why can't they make it so that, like, if I play this video for you guys, it counts as views? And why can't it funnel you guys into, like, why can't they get cred for it too? Like, why isn't that the compromise? I don't get why it is that if we each individually watched it by ourselves, it would be like, that's totally fine. But if I show it to you guys, the system seems to think that that's bad somehow. You know what I mean? Like, it's old school radio thinking, in my view. They got to nickel and dime me, but they could nickel and dime me. That's the thing. They could nickel and dime. Like, I don't get it. They know that the video is playing. Obviously they do. They shut it down, right? So why can't they just say, oh, he's playing that video. We see that he's playing that video. So instead of saying shutdown procedure, say, well, how many viewers are there? Okay, that counts towards this guy's viewer count. And advertising revenue can go towards that guy, right? For this moment in time. So he gets the penny instead of me, right? Like, they could do that. And they've just chosen not to. And I think it's just an old holdover of radio thinking. That's all it is. It's just like, oh well, in the radio days and I was like, okay, yeah, welcome to the future. Hey Islam, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, Russia developed SPFS after the West sanctioned them. China has CIPS. They are integrating them so trade can be done without SWIFT. Yeah, that's what they've been doing this whole time, and this situation is going to accelerate that by a lot. And also, Ryan, all of the capital exists in the West. That's not true. That's not true. All of the financial capital, all of the fictitious capital, all of the money exists in the West, right? Because the financial system that has existed since World War II has been one of the dominant forces in the market system. But a lot of it is bullshit. Like this is what's going to cause the next great crashes in our society, is the realization that this financial system isn't actually doing anything. It's not actually producing anything. It's not what's responsible for getting food on your table, right? That it's just this edifice. It's just this system of fictitious capital that has erected to influence markets, and it can be influential because historically people have had nowhere else to go. But now we're seeing that that's no longer the case, that people do have other places to go. And America is well aware of this, by the way. That's one of the major reasons for this NATO expansion. It's one of the major reasons for keeping Europe under the wing, right? Like this was a real win-win for America, right? If Russia stands up and does military aggression and says Ukraine can't be part of NATO, get the fuck out of here, and America has to back down and all that stuff, but there's a big sanction regime that Europe has to involve itself in because they are also partners with NATO, then they get to keep Europe under their wing. And Europe can't pivot towards Russia and China, right? But if Russia capitulates and allows them to go into Ukraine and Ukraine becomes a NATO state, well, that's perfect. It lets them move forward towards the dismantling of Russia, which is their long-term goal with Russia. So, like, from the United States perspective, this is a complete win-win, right? They win either way. And well played, if you ask me. The more I analyze it, the more I'm like, wow, like this was a really good war for America. They come out looking pretty good in either case, and it's a good way to bolster support for war generally in the population. Right? It's a good way to remind the citizens of America that there are existential threats in the world that you must be protected from, that kind of thing. You guys are saying some beautiful stuff. I forgot the specific economic policies that Frederick Hayek was praising in the KKK was them advocating abolishing of the welfare state. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Hayek would for sure be behind that kind of thing. And oh yeah, big surprise, the KKK is against welfare as well. The Western regimes are shooting themselves in the foot and accelerating their own decline. The days of gangster capitalism coming to an end. Oh, I don't know about that. China has already owned the economic and trade game. I think what's more accurate, baked potato, is that there's going to be two major systems that arise, right? And those two major systems are going to interact with one another in subtle and interesting ways, and may trade with one another directly from time to time, but that those two systems, like it's two buildings that might talk to one another and interact, but everything that happens within them is between the people who are involved in them. And members of that are going to be places like China, Russia, obviously. Afghanistan's in there. Iran is in there for sure. You're going to see, and this is where things get interesting, because like Kazakhstan and like Kyrgyzstan are traditional Soviet states. And so, but like China's like already moved rail in there and all of this. So there's going to be some interesting negotiations that happen over here, especially with the Kazakhstani revolution that happened recently. And China is attempting to move its influence throughout this region and into Africa and South America, especially. Like these two underdeveloped and overexploited, frankly, continents, China sees as future partners, right? They want to build these guys up so that they can be part of a larger system that will exist pressing against this other system, right? So there's going to be two broad systems, and one of them is a fucking death cult, and the other one less so. I do think that there are some Western, like for example, Germany. I think Germany's in massive trouble. Like Germany is in massive trouble right now because they get their gas from Russia, right? And like the gas comes right through into Germany, right? And now they're going to have to spend like 3 times the amount to get the same amount of gas from the United States, right? And so that's going to lead to some cold German winters, right? I really do think that Germany is the place that is in the trouble, and you could have some very interesting internal political moments happen in Germany because of this, because it's going to have a real effect on the citizens of Germany, right? That the citizens of Germany are like, they're probably going to look at this and be like, we used to get gas from Russia for fucking cheap as cheap, and now why can't we do that? Why? Like, and especially as like the Donbass war story comes around, as all this kind of becomes more obvious. So Germany, in my opinion, is the place to pay attention to in all of this. And in fact, I believe Macht, if I'm not mistaken, I think I have one of my regulars, one of my really respectable regulars, Macht, he's from Germany, so I think he'd be the guy to talk to about what's going on in that area as it unfolds. So I'll be curious to see if that is the case. Will JT do an emergency act about Russia soon? Yeah, exactly, right? Like, why isn't this an emergency? Yeah, no chance. Why would he? It's complicated, but broadcasting others' performance is a different scenario than listening to it individually. Creators' rights are highly regulated. I suppose I just think, like, as a creator myself, if somebody took my content and showed it to other people on their own live stream, and it turned around and actually like gave credit to my original thing because they had done that, I'm completely on board with it. I just don't see the downside. I think grinning is what I'm coming to. Like, what's as the creator, what is the downside from my perspective? More people saw it. I got the credit for it. I'm getting the payment for it. Like, what's the downside here for me? Until we have global communism, money still matters. So yeah, that's definitely true. Like, that's definitely true. That, like, well, and big question marks about whether or not you can have a society where money doesn't exist, right? So and that's a huge debate. That's a huge debate. No, and you're right. Like, money matters, but food matters more, right? Like, that's kind of the reality. Like, we can't lose the forest for the trees, right? Like, yeah, money matters because it's how we trade with one another, but the stuff that we trade is actually what matters, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you have if you don't have anything to trade, right? Like, if you don't actually have food, it doesn't matter how much money you have. So that, and like sanctioning Russia and having a currency decline in Russia doesn't really impact the fact that it still has all this gas. Like, it still has all this shit. Like, and obviously it's the West being like, yeah, the ruble's not worth a goddamn thing. It'll bounce back. Like, these guys are fucking death cultists, like psychos. Like, they're not gonna like keep the ruble at a penny forever. Like, that's not what's gonna happen. We should be drawing Russian to us, not pushing them to China. No chance of that. Well, I mean, all of this is so short-sighted, if you ask me. Like, it's all extremely short-sighted. Like, my statement has always been, why can't we build up the world? Like, why are we actually acting this way? I actually think it's more costly to act this way in the long run. It's more costly to go into a country, overthrow their government, blow their shit up, start a fucking war, like all of that shit, instead of like going to them and being like, hey, can't help but notice that you've got like an oil field here. Can we help you build that up and then you trade it with us? Right? Like, which is how China is operating. It's like, wouldn't that be better? And wouldn't that be more reasonable? Like, if the United States went to South America, let's say, and instead of like overthrowing them and like enslaving them and all this shit, they went to, let's say, Venezuela, and they were like, hey, can't help but notice that you've got the world's largest oil reserves there. Why don't we help you build up that infrastructure and in return you trade that oil with us, and we'll make sure that everything's nice and easy, breezy, beautiful, cover girl. What do you think? Right? And Venezuela will probably be like, yeah, bro, sounds radical. Let's go. But like, we just seem incapable of it. It seems like we're just like fucking not there. Like, it really is just like, brown people need to do what we say. And we say oil for us is good. And, oh, if we do that, we could get the oil for 2 cents cheaper. Yeah, that's great. Like, that's really how we talk. Like, that's how we are. Like, we just put like we just put Biden on it, and suddenly it becomes like, okay, I guess. So instead of it being like this, yeah. Instead it's like this guy where he's like, yeah, come on, man, we gotta, we need to lower gas pump by 2 cents on the dollar. Americans need to drive their gigantic tank-sized trucks around. And to do that, they need to have gas that's inexpensive. Man, come on, man. So we gotta invade Venezuela again. And that's how we are. Oh, yeah, love me, I'm a liberal, yeah. Money doesn't even need to be a bad thing. It's just bad under capitalism. Could be used in many different ways, just not how we use it under capitalism. Well, it's the worship, right? It's that we have created in our mind an equivalence between money and like breathable air, right? Like that, and they tell it to us. I remember very clearly both Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland outright in the climate change conversation were like, yes, the climate is important, and breathable air and workable land and a livable life and cities that don't burn down. Yeah, all of that is important, but money, money. And because we've created that equivalency in our mind where no equivalency actually exists, like it's very much like this. Like, if money disappeared, right? No, like, and we would come to terms with it. If all of this disappeared, we would be fucked. Like, we would be gone. We would be done. We would come to terms with it by not being alive, right? Like, there is no equivalency between these two. And yet we have created an equivalency. And it would be like as if a carpenter, instead of recognizing that his hammer is merely a tool, he came to believe that the hammer was the objective, right? That like, instead of using the hammer to like hammer nails, he would go, oh, I can't hammer those nails because that might damage the hammer, right? Like this is kind of the way that we think about money. That we don't think about it for what it is, which is just a non-existent abstract tool that we use to facilitate trade. Instead of that, it's the thing. Money. Like, if you get money, that means you're good, right? You are good. Morally, utilitarianly, practically, like any position you want to take in the West. If you made money doing it, you're objectively good. Like, that's worship. That's worship is what it is. And getting away from that and getting back into a place where we're like, yeah, money. Like, sure. Like, it exists to the degree that it needs to. It's a tool. Like, getting to that point, it's going to be a big road. And there's going to be a lot of conflict between here and there. The ironic thing, come on, Brandwin. The ironic thing about the welfare state is that corporations are on welfare. Exactly. Yeah, good enough for them, right? Did they sanction gas? I don't think they have actually sanctioned the gas yet. Because that's a big tipping point, right? And again, like, it's going to be a big problem. But I think you're right to call me out on that, Eric, that I don't think they have actually sanctioned the gas yet. John, what do you think about China supposedly supporting sanctions on Russia? They haven't supported them. They abstained. Oh, shit. What the hell happened there? Oh, I got barbecue sauce on my leg. All right. Such is life. And China's position on global conflicts is that they are between the countries that are fighting, and so they've been abstaining, and Western media has been interpreting that as support for sanctions, when it's nothing of the sort. It's straight out like, this is a war, this is a European war. That's the Chinese position. This is a European conflict. We are not going to involve ourselves in a European conflict. I think that's the wisest position. I think by saying a no or a yes, they are signaling in ways that they don't want to. And so a simple abstention, simply saying this is a European conflict, we are going to allow the Europeans to deal with it, is the right thing, not only for them, but I think it's the right thing to do. And of course the West is going to be like, China's on our side on this one. They would say that no matter what. Even if China was like, no, they wouldn't say it if China was like outright, like directly supporting Russia. But like, if China said no, then America would be like, yeah, China's on our side, bitch. That's how they'd be. Because that's how they are. But USA! 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 Money is what allows for commodity production. Socialism is moneyless. Theoretically, socialism is moneyless. This is the thing about money, right? Like, we haven't gotten there yet to a society that can be moneyless because we haven't erected the systems to allow for it, right? We've tied, because of our worship of money, we've tied everything to it, and so you can't do anything without it. Like, and the idea, and Trotsky writes on this pretty lucidly. The idea is that eventually money just becomes unimportant to the regular citizen. That it still exists as a bookkeeping tool, right? Like as a way for the accountants and the financiers to be like, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And so it's a measurement in a kind of behind the scenes sort of way. But for the average citizen, they don't notice it. It doesn't matter to them anymore. Because their life is, they get up, they go to their job, or they go to whatever it is that they do. They go get their food. Their rent is essentially taken care of, or their house is essentially taken care of, so they don't even need to worry about it. And it's just kind of assumed that the productive activity that the citizen is doing is paying for the necessities of their life, and so they don't really even notice money. That maybe if they wanted to make a big purchase, they would go talk to a banker or a financier and be like, okay, am I well positioned to do this? And they would be like, yes or no, and give you the clear reason why it would be the case. And that would be the interaction of money for the citizenry generally. That's the theory. And in this way, it's like a withering away, right? Which is very much the same idea as the withering away of the state, right? That like, we move towards creating systems that sustain themselves and support the populace in an indefinite kind of way. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that we can ever do away with a state apparatus. I think that if you were to do away with the state, then whatever system replaced it would become the state. Like, I think that's generally more or less what I think would actually happen. So you always need some kind of like formal institution that people can funnel into to be able to at least maintain law, right? Anyway. Ukraine still has time to bomb civilians while getting attacked by Russia. Yeah, exactly. The foreign minister wants to ruin Russia. And Schultz proposed increasing the armaments budget to $100 billion. Yeah, dude, like things are fucking crazy. Ruble only dropped 30%. It's a great Forex play at the moment. Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah, buy rubles, right? It can only go back up. Just imagine what's his name, the stupid financier guy. What's this guy? Jim Cramer, right? Hitting the button. Buy rubles. Buy rubles. I am not a financial expert. Do not take my advice. I remember a few years back when Russia was trying to build up a lot of small organic farms all over the country. Yeah, that's definitely part of their strategy, right? And why shouldn't they do that? It makes total sense to do that. We should do that. Are you kidding me? When I walk around some of these neighborhoods here in Toronto, I'm looking at like houses that have like lawns that you could grow a garden in that would feed not only that house, but the house beside them. Like, we've wasted so much land here. And what's great is that you then like turn down a street and you're walking through a Chinese neighborhood, and their front lawns are gardens, man. And like not flowers and shit, like food. They've got it, and it's jam packed with just like every kind of food that you want. And I'm like, yeah, we should fucking do that. Like, we should create a jobs program here in Toronto and across Canada, frankly, but Toronto, we should create a jobs program where we hire gardeners to convert land that is wasted, so front lawns, golf courses, all this shit, into farms. And we should convert housing, like every neighborhood should have a local farm, like so one house would be like literally like goats, chickens, there should be bees and shit. Like, we should make this conversion. We should do it. And I'm strongly in support of that. It's like this industrialized agricultural view and this urbanization of our societies isn't really working. Like, it's not actually the best way to go. Like, it seems like, you know, and it's difficult to confront that because I think people rather like the idea of cities. We like the idea of having like a hive, you know, where like there's like a cultural hub that comes up. But seems to me like we're going to have some serious like Sodom and Gomorrah moments coming up. Like cities are going to start blowing up, and not blowing up because the Russians are going to nuke them or anything, but blowing up because like we just fucking blow them up. We go crazy. Marx and Engels didn't distinguish between socialism and communism because they were the first ones to call themselves communists. But unfortunately, not all socialists are communists. Well, and also, like, the term gets watered down over time because, like, some people call themselves socialists because they understand that it's transitional, right? That they transition towards communism, right? That's kind of how the Chinese view themselves. Like, they call themselves socialists with Chinese characteristics because they understand that they're not at communism and they're transitioning to it, right? But then you also have like the social democracies that showed up in response to communist societies, right? Like capitalists will capitulate to social democracy if it means they get to keep the means of production, right? Like in an effort to prevent communism from actually showing up. And yeah, so like, and like, while the work of Marx and Engels is like crucial, it's not the end of the story, right? And Marx and Engels were magnificent when it came to critiquing capital, but they didn't really have much theory behind how to actually get there, right? Which is why the works of Trotsky and Stalin and Lenin and Mao and Deng are actually so important, because these guys actually like are taking this idea and manifesting it into the real world. And it's complex. It's difficult to do. So especially when you've got so many antagonizers. NATO partners are and always have been doing the very thing they accuse Germany, USSR, China of wanting to achieve. Of course. That's how you roll. Remember, be vigilant during this information war. Yeah. Canada is sanctioning crude oil from Russia. Yeah, I've got an article on that. They just announced it. Yeah, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Canada is banning all crude oil imports from Russia. I'd be curious to do a bit of a deeper dive and find out exactly how much crude oil we were importing in the first place. Like, is this just a political win announcement? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announces that we're banning all imports of fluffy pink bunny slippers from Russia. Right? Like how much crude oil do we actually import from Russia? I don't have the answer on that, but I wouldn't be too surprised to find out if this is just Justin Trudeau being like, yes, we are banning an import that doesn't actually matter. Praise me, Justin Trudeau, the walking haircut that I am. That's what I thought. I saw articles saying that. Thought the entire problem with money comes back how much economists as Strawman Smith imagined, on how much economists as Strawman Smith imagined if economist speaks like this, and their following excerpt is from my psychology textbook. For Smith, the market encouraged self-control or self-regulation because humans need functioning relationships with other people. This is what Smith called the moral sentiment. Yes, Smith argued we act for our own interest, but in doing so, we are mindful of the regard of others. It is this, Smith said, that makes society possible. Self-command or self-regulation is crucial to the moral functioning of society, and the invisible hand uses this to meld interests. Thus, the emergence of the market, with its demands for self-accounting, was critical in reinforcing emergent self-regulation. We want to emphasize that this process was chronologically uneven across Europe, England, and North America, with much processes occurring most broadly first in England. Concurrent with these in developments, discussed earlier were changes in family life with work relations. We turn to these sites next. Look at this woke textbook that doesn't teach conservative understanding of the invisible hand. Yeah. Well, and yeah, Smith is such an interesting figure. I recently read his work again. And what really struck me was he was a capitalist before capitalism was a thing. He was just describing what interacting with the market was like. He was very upfront and very candid because I think he saw himself as documenting something important. And he outright says, self-regulation is important, right? So law, right? We should have laws. We should this idea that we can just let chaos reign and have there be an invisible hand that shakes everything around. It's essentially worship of a god. Nah. I agree with Trotsky on the evolution of our view on money. Money can be an extremely useful tool under socialism and communism. Well, and already, sometimes I talk to Chinese people, and there's what Trotsky was describing seems to be happening to a certain degree to certain segments of the Chinese populace. If you are a engineer in China, right? You don't really think about money. It's just not really part of your day-to-day consideration any longer because you're working a job. If you want a house, you'll probably get a house, right? You go talk to a financier, right? And so this withering away of money is already kind of in process if the baton can continue being passed successfully, and if the impetus to worship money is sort of chased away, then perhaps in a generation or two, you'll end up with people who are just money? What's money? Just in the same way that a kid today would be what's a CD player? What's an 8-track player? These things just fade out of our consciousness, and the only people who really know what money is will be the people who are just kind of responsible for tracking things and being okay, yeah, everything's in order, right? The cost of gas here in BC is now 6.73 cents a gallon, expected to go up to 7.57 a gallon. Yeah, this is going to push people over the edge. For sure it will. For sure it will. A lot of those lawns are poisoned now, though, because of all the chemicals used on them. It's in the soil. Be careful of that. Branwyn. How dare you come in and rain on my parade, Branwyn. With your beautiful name, Branwyn. I think Branwyn is a beautiful name. I gotta tell you. Anyway, look on these. That's so true. Chinese people plant food, not flowers. Yeah, absolutely. I work on a farm. You wouldn't believe the amount of food that gets thrown away. Oh, yeah, dude. I've worked on farms, too. Yeah, I know exactly how much food gets thrown away. It takes a lot, and sometimes it is justified. There are justified, this has gone bad, this is rotted, all this, and there have been initiatives to try and save a lot of that food. I remember when I was a kid, I worked on a potato farm, and they were providing the potatoes for McDonald's fries, and literally McDonald's gave them an edict telling them the size of the potato that they were willing to accept because they wanted to have a certain length of fry, right? So they want to have a certain length of fry. So that means if the potato was too small, they wouldn't accept it. And so this guy is his contract is with McDonald's, and he's having to sift through potatoes to pick out the potatoes that how fucking dumb and wasteful can you get? The U.S. got rid of all their nut trees so people couldn't get free tree. Yeah, why plant a maple tree when you can have a hickory tree? Yeah, it's true. For a while, I was a strong supporter of social democracy until I realized how capitalists will try to undo. That's just it, Eric. Social democracy is a compromised position by the capitalist class, and it's always temporary. Because the capitalists will always attempt to claw it back. Always. Because the goal of all capitalist societies is to privatize everything, including your water. If they could find a way to privatize air, they'd do it. The linchpin is who owns the means of production. And as long as the means of production is owned primarily, as long as the end of the conversation is the oligarch class, the owners of the means of production, and there's no apparatus that's actually working against them systemically, we'll always be in decline, right? We'll always be in decline. Check out Russian dachas, Russian cottages, often grow food, amazing. Social democracy slowly dismantling itself, yeah. Mr. Trudeau told a news conference Canada imported just 289 million worth of energy products in 2021. Yeah, so basically nothing, right? Like 289 million, like that's basically nothing, like on in the grand scheme of things. So him standing up and being like, we're banning that, right? It's and Canadians will be all like, yeah, we stand with Ukraine. Please don't nuke us. Like that's really what people are up to. Like the whole stand with Ukraine thing, I immediately understood. Like you saw protests, you saw people going out on the streets, the Ukrainian, all that kind of stuff. Like the people of Canada don't give a fuck about Ukraine. Just like they don't actually give a fuck about Iraq or Afghanistan or Somalia or Syria or the Palestinians or any of this, right? The people of Canada don't give a fuck about any of that. All they care about is that we could get nuked. That's what they care about. And so when Canadians are standing up saying we stand with Ukraine, all they're actually saying is, please don't get nuked. Like, please don't let this go nuclear. That's really where we're at. Hey, Demand Better, how you doing, bud? Video Central. Don't think I've seen you around here either, bud. Wow, we got a lot of new people in the chat today. Turns out taking a controversial take on a war has paid off. Americans paying 3.5, crying about it? Yeah, fucking American babies. America's just a country of babies, man. I live in PEI. The government has banned Russian alcohol, pointless sanctions. Yeah, and that started to happen here in Ontario, but it got reversed. I think people kind of came to their senses on that one, being like, yeah, we can't ban Russian vodka. Like, come on. What? You want us to have inferior vodka? No, thank you. In the Libertarian Manifesto by Murray Rothbard, he outright says we should privatize oceans. Yeah, right? Like, these guys are psycho. Like, privatize oceans? Get fucked. Yeah, it's a theatrical move, exactly. I see so many so-called leftists blindly supporting sanctions on Russia. Like, this issue is actually one of these nice clear-cut ones, right? Like, I shouldn't say that. It isn't actually clear-cut. And so, for example, Chris Hedges came out against Putin's moving into Ukraine while simultaneously saying, I understand why he did it, right? So, I would love to see him expound on that point more. Because to me, here's a moment where a man, a very respectable, like, if you are shitting on Chris Hedges, you're wrong, right? You're wrong. I think here's a moment where I can, and what's fascinating to me about this moment with Hedges is that it is actually the first time that I disagree with him. And I would love to have a conversation with him about this specific issue. Because, like, no one in North America is more knowledgeable about war and is as prolific as Chris Hedges, right? That he knows what war is. He wrote a very, very powerful book called War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. He's really got his finger on the pulse of what war actually is and what it is like to be in war. And so for him to be like, Putin shouldn't have moved in, I'm like, I understand. Like, I understand where he's coming from for sure. And the question that I would love to have, and I would love to talk about with him, and I even sent him a tweet in the hopes that maybe this will come back around. I should just keep tweeting him until he comes back around on me, because I really want to see a conversation on, like, okay, first of all, why? Like, why? Let's have a more open and meaningful conversation about why you think that Putin moving in was a bad call. And then, is there ever a time? When would be the time? When would it be appropriate? What would be the circumstances? Because my position on this, I think I've been fairly clear from the outset that, like, you have state-funded and integrated Nazis invading the Donbass region for 8 years, and a larger political force that's refusing diplomacy. Like, how long do you actually let that occur? How long do you actually watch that happen? And do you just wait until NATO takes Ukraine over and then is invading you? Like, when can you do it? And it's not a preemptive war. Like, Hedges called it a preemptive war, and it's not a preemptive war. The war was ongoing. It was happening to Russians. Like, that's not a preemptive... Like, what Putin did is not a preemptive strike. Like, it isn't. And so that's the question that I'd really love to talk to him about, especially because I think that he is... he's brilliant, and his perspective should absolutely be listened to. The fact that Chris Hedges is not routinely on CNN or Fox or any of these places tells you everything you need to know about them. But why are you ignoring that Putin's regime in the military is filled with Nazis? We just went through that, Garden Mice. They actually, I've been asking that question. Okay, so this is the claim that Putin's regime is full of Nazis. Well, here's an article that goes through it and tries to throw as much shade as it possibly can. And the response is that the best that they can do is that there is a mercenary group that Putin has worked with at one point that has Nazis within it. That's the best that they can do. And so we draw a distinction, or I draw a distinction between a mercenary group off on the side and the actual integration of a Nazi battalion into the state apparatus. Like, that to me is a distinction that should be made. And I keep asking for people to provide sources that Putin's regime and military is filled with Nazis. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And this is, here, I'll even put it in the chat for you, Garden Mice. You can have a look at this. Right? Oh, what about your post? Of course. Of course. Here we go. Yeah, let's get deeper into this question, because it is important, and you're right. And I'm not. If I ever get into a position where I am dismissing you guys as you're trying to provide evidence, then I deserve to lose all my subscribers and everything is totally shitty. Like, absolutely. And Eric is providing us with, okay, this is research done by Lucas Andriakakis, exclusively for Res Republica, Civic Resilience Center, an open source researcher, trainer focusing on Kremlin disinformation, military involvement in conflicts around the globe. Great. For the past several years, he's focused on Russian involvement in Ukraine, Syria, Libya, and Venezuela. That seems like grasping, to be honest. And if they are not working with on contract versus hire, not much of a difference. But I'll dig deeper. Yeah, please. Let's all dig deeper. Let's all keep digging. Right? We should be interested in what is the truth. And that's what I'm interested in. So, Russian mercenaries are becoming an increasingly hot topic as traces of their activities can be found in conflicts around the world. Torture and war crimes seem to be not only the dark side of these militant groups, as open source evidence reveals some of the fighters following far-right neo-Nazi ideologies. Incidences of far-right leanings among some members of the armed forces is not unheard of in other parts of the world. Like, this is the thing, like, and I keep saying it, like, there is a difference between, like, a group of Nazis who are officially espousing Nazi rhetoric being integrated into the state apparatus, and a group of mercenaries, which isn't great. Like, it's certainly, but it's a step up from Nazis, who have Nazis within them, which makes sense. It's a mercenary group that the state uses in like a Machiavellian opportunistic way, right? And this distinction is important. And the reason why it's important is because one is a casus belli for war and the other is not. Like, straight up. Like, if Justin Trudeau stood up and pointed at the Freedom Convoy and said, some of them are Nazis, so we need to go to war. This is the reason why the Emergency Measures Act invocation was so stupid, right? Because we were like, no, that's not a casus belli. It doesn't work that way. And he knew it, which is why he stepped down from it so quickly. He knew that if there was actually a court challenge, he would fail, because he didn't actually meet the casus belli to actually evoke that legislation, right? And much in the same way that if there's like a mercenary group that's being used in a conflict, and you point at them and say, hey, some of these guys are Nazis, so that means that we can declare war on whoever is using this mercenary group. It just doesn't work that way. And it's sharply different from a state integrated, like the Azov Battalion is part of the Ukrainian military. Like, it's part of the Ukrainian government. That is extremely different. It is. And is it shitty that we have to make draw these lines and create these distinctions? Yeah, obviously. Like, obviously it's shitty. Like, and no one is happy about any of this. Like, no one is happy about war. No one is happy about any of this. But if we want to try to make sense of it, then we have to make these distinctions, and we have to understand what's actually happening. Like, there's a difference between like a state-backed organization that's integrated in the society and just some assholes going off and doing shit, right? Like, we should know that that's different. Okay. The type of ideology espoused by Russian mercenaries remains an anathema in a country where millions died fighting Nazis during World War II. I mean, to me, this is always the point when it comes to this claim that Putin has like integrated Nazis. I think it'd be political suicide for him. Can you imagine if Putin actually integrated Nazis into his ranks in significant ways? Right? Like 25 million Russians died to Nazis in World War II. I think it'd be political suicide for him to do it, which is why I'm so skeptical of it. Like, it's like, Putin has definitely used mercenaries. That's 100% the truth. Like, and there are going to be Nazis in mercenary groups. That is absolutely the truth. Has he used a mercenary group that is explicitly neo-Nazi in its configuration and its structure? That would be a tipping point for me, I think. That if Putin reached out to a group that was explicitly neo-Nazi in its structure, that would be a tipping point for me. Yeah, 27 million Russians died in World War II. So this is what, more than anything, this is what sort of places me in a place of being very skeptical of these claims of neo-Nazi integration and Nazi integration into Vladimir Putin's regime. Because I think it would be political suicide. I think he would lose the support of his people overnight, instantly. He absolutely would be. This type of the slogan "To fight fascism" was one of the rallying points, inviting Russian volunteers to fight in Donbass against Ukrainian fascists. Russian President Putin has called Ukraine a fascist country a number of times, yet the numerous mercenaries who went to fight in Donbass, Syria, and Libya are neo-Nazis themselves. This article analyzes some of the available open source evidence shedding light on Russian mercenaries' extreme ideology. Let's be really clear here, too. Like, mercenaries are not great. Like, I highly advise everybody read The Prince. Machiavelli talks at length, in comparison to the rest of his stuff, about mercenaries and when it's good to use mercenaries and what you should expect from mercenaries. And you use mercenaries in a pinch. Like, it's the absolute truth. Like, and it's part of the war. It's part of all of this kind of stuff. So Dmitry Urtkin, here we go, the Wagner Group. I've been looking for a good source on the Wagner Group, actually, Eric. So thanks for providing this. This is the talking point that gets used a lot by the anti-Putin side. And again, the reason why I'm bringing this stuff forward is not to debunk it. It is not to debunk it. Let me be extremely clear. It is to color our perception and to get into a place of understanding. Putin's not a good guy. Like let's just like state it explicitly to make sure that we are all on the same page here. Like if you're on the other side of this, going like John's an apologist for Putin and he's saying that Putin's the good guy and all this kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. But Putin is who Putin is, and I want to be clear-minded about who Putin is and what he is and what he does. And my perception of him is that he is a Tsar. He's a neo-Tsar, right? Like, he's not a neoliberal, right? He's a neo-Tsar. And he's an opportunist, without a doubt. Like, without a doubt. But he's also a Russian, right? He also does care about his own citizenry, right? Could he care more about his own citizenry? Sure. Like, sure. I think Stalin probably cared about his own citizens more than Putin does. But again, I think that's kind of, that's just my opinion, man. I don't have like a document on this, right? Navalny is pretty bad too. Yeah, absolutely. So with all of that said, because I think we've got to say it, let's move forward. Dmitry Utkin is the founder of the infamous Wagner mercenary group. It has not been verified if Utkin established the group himself or was a frontman for someone else. Utkin is the veteran of both Chechnyan wars and has participated in the Russian operations in Ukraine in 2014. He served in the GRU until 2013, after which he commanded a Spetsnaz unit, earning the rank of a lieutenant colonel. In 2013, he joined the Moran security group, and in 2014, he established the Wagner Group, named after his nom de guerre, his old call sign, Wagner. In 2016, Utkin was invited at a Hero of the Fatherland reception in the Kremlin, where he was photographed wearing his medals. This event was attended by more than 300 soldiers and civilians who have demonstrated particular courage and heroism and were personally thanked for their service by Putin himself. At the event, he was awarded the Order of Courage, allegedly for his services in Ukraine. A photo recently surfaced of Utkin with Nazi tattoos, giving additional proof of his ideological leanings. For those who have been following Wagner Group for some time, this photo was not surprising, as his and a lot of Wagner fighters' ideological inclinations were already known. The photo originally surfaced on Russian VK accounts and a Telegram group affiliated with the mercenaries, but received interest by media outlets just recently. Yeah, I wonder why. Taking a closer look at the photos, Nazi collar tabs with Waffen SS bolts on the left and military rank on the right can be identified. Lower on the chest, a Reichsadel eagle can be seen. All three of these tattoos are symbols found in Waffen SS military uniforms, which was the military branch of the Nazi Party's SS organization. Yeah, this is a concerning figure, I should say. When the photo surfaced, some concerns online were expressed about the person in the photo. In order to check if the person in the photo is really Utkin, an old passport photo of him was used with Microsoft Azure face recognition software. The software allows to compare two photos and give a confidence rating about how likely it is that the two faces belong to the same person. A score of above 0.7 suggests with high reliability it is. In this case, the score given by Microsoft Azure was 0.7. So let's put that aside. Let's go along with that. Okay, I'm happy to go along with that. Lastly, a photo has surfaced in 2020 where a group of alleged Wagner soldiers in Syria were led by a man with a Weimar hat. The photo where the alleged mercenaries received instructions appeared on Milo Life channel. Even though the exact location of the photo is unknown, the faces of the soldiers in the photos are blurred. The man wearing the hat is suspected to be Utkin. The bald head and the shape of the ear visible in the photo suggests, and the photo in question could be Utkin. So, come on. Come on. This is shade throwing to the highest possible degree. This is not. I'm happy to say that this man exists. Here he is, right? It's very believable to me. This guy's got some Nazi shit going on, right? So one guy in one place in Russia has Nazi shit on him. No, I don't. I'm not buying into any of this. Who are these people? Where are they? Allegedly could be. Too bad. And that's it with him. That's it with him. Okay. So what do we got with Wagner, right? So we've got a Nazi. Let's make it the worst it can possibly be. Okay, just as a fun thought experiment, right? The worst it could possibly be is that you've got a guy who is a Nazi, right? Who is within the ranks of a Russian, in a group. He served, which he commanded a Spetsnaz unit, earned the rank of a lieutenant colonel. So you've got a lieutenant colonel who is also a Nazi within the Russian military. And the shade throwing is that this guy is actually now the head of a group who they themselves are also neo-Nazis. So that's the series of connections that are being made. Very believable to me that a figure like this could exist. Absolutely. Is this the same as an entire battalion integrated into the state infrastructure? No. Is it concerning? Does it make me go please, tell me more, right? Would you like to know more? Yes, click, please, tell me more, right? Definitely something to keep our finger on the pulse of. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's good that people are doing this kind of reporting, and it's good that if we want to remain morally consistent, and our position is Nazis are bad, and the integration of Nazis into state infrastructure is the line that we are drawing. Well, here's a figure who is involved in the Russian military without a doubt. We have conceded that he is definitely got Nazi symbolism, so is therefore likely himself a Nazi. Keep our eye on the prize, man. Keep our eye on the prize. To what degree is he he's not the leader of a Nazi battalion that's been integrated into the state. So, not great, not super. Do I think I could find this guy in the Canadian military, in the American military, in the I don't know, any military? Pick a military. I think I could find this guy in any military. So let's not even worry about that, Major. Let's just accept that. Let's just accept that this is the same guy. Same guy. Let's just accept that, right? Because I think that it's always a good idea to take the worst position possible for your argument, right? That's what I think gives this channel and what we're doing here a lot of credibility. That I'm not trying to wash things away. I'm not trying to find the best case scenario for my argument. What's the worst possible position? What's the worst possible position for my argument? And let's argue from there. And I'm happy to do that. I really am. So if these people are saying that this guy is this guy, and we've got a piece of AI that's saying that this guy is this guy, okay. So you got one Nazi, just like every other military that exists on the planet. Okay. And this is all bullshit. Sorry, this is all bullshit. Even within the language. The photo were the alleged mercenaries. So who are they? We don't know. They're alleged. Might be Utkin. Who knows? We don't know. And Branwyn, why blur out the faces? Right? This reeks. This reeks. This, I refuse to go along with this. Nazi in Russian military, sure. Fuck off with this. You're telling me you can't provide better evidence of this? I can show you literal Nazis in Ukraine. I can show you pictures right fucking now. right? Oh, just an observation, sure. It is a bit of a weird expression, isn't it? Hello, my name is Dimitri. I'm 63 years old. I'm looking for love. All right. Moving on. Jan Petrovsky, the vice commander of the Rusich task force, has fought in Ukraine, supporting the military operation to aid the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics in 2014-2015. Due to his actions in Ukraine, he has been deemed a war criminal by the Ukrainian authorities. Oh, okay. He is a Russian neo-Nazi. Russia's a Russian neo-Nazi paramilitary group. There's the claim, who has actively fought not only in Ukraine but also in Syria. According to social network research done by Frontline Forensics, there is substantial cross-affiliation between Rusich and Wagner groups. So this group that's alleged to be suspected to, like, you see how this is done? Right? This is very much how, like, we get Radio Free Asia to say it, and then we get the BBC to say it, and then we get everybody else to say it because the BBC said it because RF. You see how this works? Like, we build consent, we manufacture consent this way, right? Like, so now it's gone from, this is an alleged picture of a supposed group that is a mercenary group that is suspected to be led by Utkin, who is himself a Nazi. And now it's going into, there's substantial cross-affiliation between Rusich and Wagner groups who we suspect to, you see how it works? Like, so gone is the alleged and the speculative and all of this. And now, there's cross-affiliation between these two groups, so Nazis. Right? Like, I am not convinced. It is extremely easy to convince me of the Nazi problem in Ukraine. You can find that shit real easy. Real easy. The idea that you can't find the same sort of information about these groups, that your best thing is like a picture of this guy with a picture that's like, I showed you my dick, please respond. Like, that's it? Like, that's what you've got? Pretty low-level shit, man, if you ask me. Okay. OSINT, like, and again, I want to state, I am open to being convinced on these points. I truly am. I'm here to be open, but trust me, bro, doesn't cut it. Not even close. Like, not even close. Like, trust me, bro, doesn't do it for me. I need source documents. I need evidence and photographs. Like, I need people like Russell Bentley telling me what's what. Like, that's convincing. So far, this is not very convincing, honestly. OSINT research conducted by Norwegian media outlet NRK No has concluded that Petrovsky was fighting in various regions in Syria and Ukraine, actions for which he was arrested and deported from Norway. I mean, yeah. Leaving aside the compelling research done by NRK No, some of the verified photos shows his leanings towards far-right Nazi ideology. Oh yeah, we got some like Nazi salutes going on. In numerous photos, Petrovsky was captured giving the Nazi salute during his time in Syria. These photos were not only geolocated to show exactly where he was, but also verified, despite the blurred... Again, who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like, you got a picture of someone. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I'm just like not convinced at all. Like, this is not convincing me. Like, you got a picture of a dude who you say is this guy. Is he? Additionally, Petrovsky has also been posing for numerous photos with hate symbols. Some of the most common, used by the Tyr, Rune, and Velkrot. Yeah, that's this. Now we're getting there. Now we're getting there, right? Like, here's the dude posing with shit, right? Yeah, now we're getting convincing. Like, now we're getting convincing. Right? No. Yeah, trust me, bro. Yeah. Lastly, the far-right ideology tracers within the Wagner group can be traced using their use of specific symbols, which can be classified as hate symbols, most of them originating or related with Nazi ideology. Some of the most common used by Russian mercenaries are the runic insignia, or runes. One of the most. Another common rune, a rune associated with war, yeah. That the SF thought of as the Kampf, or battle rune, symbolizing military leadership. It's an upvote. Oh shit, you guys. Is that what we're doing with upvotes? Right? It should be noted that the website is an American one hosted by Amazon. Yeah, just looked it up. But, like, a lot of what we're seeing here is largely speculative. And largely speculative of, like, a mercenary group and members within that mercenary group. Like, so let's just take it all at face value. Let's believe everything they're saying. So what do you got? You've got a mercenary group that has neo-Nazi groups in it, right? And so even if that's fundamentally true, it still doesn't cross the threshold of being integrated within the state apparatus. That's not part of the military. They're not governors, right? And it's extremely believable to me that, like, a ruler would be like, okay, there's a conflict going on in Syria. Who's in that region? Those guys are in the region. Okay, send them. You know, it's extremely believable to me. Does that mean that Nazis are integrated in the state government? No. Numerous fighters serving in various Russian mercenary groups, infamous for war crimes around the world, are followers of radical far-right ideologies and even neo-Nazi ideology. One of the most prominent narratives the Kremlin populates is that Russia is the main, or sometimes even the sole country responsible for defeating the Nazi Germany in World War II. The strong despise towards anything Nazi and fascist, in which Russia often come as synonyms, is deeply rooted in the society. However, open source evidence suggests that fighters supporting neo-Nazi symbols serve in military groups associated with the Kremlin, including the founder of the infamous Wagner Group. Look, here is what any Russian citizen is going to tell you. Like, it really. Like, oh yeah, Putin used a mercenary group in Syria to defend our interests, and there was some Nazis in there. What are you going to do? Like, It's shitty that it's gotten to this point, but this is what we're talking about. We are talking about the difference. Let's take the worst possible position for our argument, right? From what we've seen. We've got a state-funded, fully integrated military battalion that has been enacting an 8-year war against Russians, right? This is the Azov Battalion, right? As well as Nazis within the government itself, right? Operating in order to do this. And then we've got mercenary groups that have been fighting in various conflicts around the world, some members of which are Nazis. That is different. And not actually equivalent. Like, and I think, like, if this is the best they've got, and even if I take the worst possible position for my argument, that Russia has used mercenary groups with Nazis in them, still better than what the fuck is going on in Ukraine, right? And the line that we draw is if Nazis begin to integrate themselves with the state military. That's the line that should be drawn. The Nazgul characters, dude. We're getting into Nazgul territory. God, this is this the one? Is this what we're talking about? This conversation, dude, is so, like, I did not think I was going to need to be drawing distinctions between certain types of Nazism. This flavor of Nazi comes from the lower Texas region. It has a more rustic dialectic, which counterbalances the form of Nazism that can be found in eastern Ukraine. a spicier variant. It's more of a call to action. Svobodna? Is this what I'm supposed to be looking at, bud? Sorry. You know what, guys? I gotta tell you. I think the rest of today I'm gonna stop digging deep on this one. It's tiring. It's tiring. It's psychologically tiring. And just going into like this deep dive here. Okay. Eric, thank you so much. I think I'm okay for now, okay? This is psychically draining. Like, it's psychically draining to go through and try to understand this and create distinctions. And again, just to conclude my concluding position, Putin is a neo-Tsar. He definitely used mercenary groups, and it is extremely believable that within those mercenary groups are Nazis. I completely believe that. Like, and I don't need to be convinced that that is not great. War is not great, right? Like, war is bad. I wish that we didn't have to do war. But if war is going to happen, it is inevitable that mercenary groups will be involved, and it is inevitable that within those mercenary groups there will be Nazis. Certainly. This is in sharp contrast to what is going on in Ukraine, where a battalion of neo-Nazis who openly, like, they're not painting Nazi swastikas in places. It's not a dude with a tattoo. It's on their uniforms. It's the flag that they're flying. And they have become part of the Ukrainian military, officially. That's different. And we have to draw a distinction. And it's important that we draw a distinction. Because if we attempted to purge the world of all Nazis, then you're in the war and terror situation. Right? Where you're constantly just in a fight against evil. Right? All the time. Endless war. Constantly. This is different. This is the full-scale integration of a Nazi battalion in the state apparatus. And that's something that's actionable. And that's something that's a legitimate threat, if you ask me. Which is why I would love to have a conversation with Chris Hedges about this point completely, because he would be absolutely the perfect person to challenge this position. And I would love for him to challenge this position. Because also I just would love to talk, like, it would be the height of my life. It would be like my life, like, to have one conversation with Chris Hedges. That would mean a lot to me, I gotta tell you. Having one conversations with Chris Hedges. I think more than anyone else on the planet, just having a conversation with him would be really something. Anyway, if wishes were real, frogs wouldn't bump their asses on the ground when they jumped. To be honest, I'm not convinced either. All I'm doing is reporting people evidence, and that's important to do, though. That's important to do, Eric. And thanks a lot for bringing this forward, for sure. I don't want to be moving forward, being like rah Putin, and here he is, like, doing the same thing that I'm condemning Ukraine of, right? I'm not interested in that, right? This is why I can't wrap my head around all the leftists who are supporting Ukraine. Islam, I think it really does come down to nukes are involved. That's really what it comes down to. And I don't think people have their faculties. I think that we're looking at what could be described as a knee-jerk reaction, that one, people don't know what's going on. Like, they just don't know what's going on. And two, there's nukes. So it's created an existential threat, right? It's the only reason that anyone cares about what's going on in Ukraine. That as far as anyone was concerned, for the last 8 years, there's been a war there and no one's given a shit at all, right? Why? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them at all. It's not an existential threat to them at all. It's just another fucking war that we're doing, right? But now Russia moves in, and that fucking spikes that shit up. And the natural result, like, take a look at what happened after 9/11. What happened here in this country, in America and in Canada to a good degree, was a hyper patriotism, right? That speaking out against the government was itself a treasonous act in many people's eyes. The whole support the troops movement, the whole like, remember the Dixie Chicks, right? Like how their careers ended when they spoke out against that war, right? Like, so and the same thing is happening now. I think it's happening faster. I think it's not gonna take so long for people to come back around on it the way it did for the Iraq War, because of the history of us being lied to. And so I think it's natural for any person, regardless of political position, to take a support Ukraine position, because fundamentally that, in their minds, is an anti-war position. That we need to find a diplomatic solution, right? Which I agree with. I think we should find a diplomatic solution. But I'm not willing to sacrifice I'm not willing to sacrifice the truth in front of that. And the truth is that a neo-Nazi battalion that had integrated itself into the Ukrainian government has been attacking the Donbass region for 8 years. Like, and if you're after a coup in Ukraine, like, and if you're not moving from that, if you're not moving forward from that, while we may agree that diplomacy is necessary, well, if you don't understand that, then your idea of diplomacy is different than mine, right? Like, you think that we have more credibility than we actually do in the conversation. This Ukraine timing sure sucks for the People's Convoy in USA. Doesn't it ever, bud? Doesn't it ever? So to really land on it, Islam, I think that it is understandable that even leftists are in the support Ukraine position. I suspect they'll come around. Like, I really do. I suspect a lot of them will come around to understanding. And a lot of leftists are still very much like, boo NATO. Like, they're still very much like, NATO's stupid and sucks, doesn't it? They just haven't turned that corner where they're willing to also concede that. Because the linchpin of the conversation is, when is it okay to go to war? When is it okay to pick up arms? When is it okay? That's the linchpin of the entire conversation. I believe the criteria has been met. That's really fundamentally my position. That I believe that just as I believe that if you are under attack, it is rational for you to fight back. If someone comes over to you and starts beating the shit out of you and you start beating the shit out of them, right? I'm going to be like, yeah, good, beat the shit out of them. They came over and started beating the shit out of you. Right? And I think exactly the same way geopolitically. That if a group of people or a country or a nation or a state apparatus comes over and starts fucking you up, you have the right to defend yourself and to fight back. Right? And how long are you willing to watch someone get beat up before you're willing to intervene? Like that, this is how it works in my head. That you've got a Ukrainian state filled with Nazis attacking a group of Russians. And after 8 years of attempting diplomacy, Putin finally decided, no more of this. Right? And are there other considerations? Are there other things? Is there a more Machiavellian way to look at this? Sure. Here, I'll even give it to you. I'll even give you the most Machiavellian shit I've heard. Right? So the Crimea, right? This Crimea Peninsula, when Putin came in, when the Ukrainian crisis began, 2014, he moved into Crimea and took it over. Well, there's huge gas reserves in the water here. Right? So it makes a Machiavellian sense to move into this region and take it over to get access to this gas, right? For sure. And like the Donbass region has similar kind of things. There's I believe in this region over here, there is new oil reserves that can be exploited given the new technology that they found, the new fracking technology, right? And so from that, like, absolutely. And I would be a fool to pretend like Putin isn't sitting there being like, okay, here's a great reason to get in there and get that oil. Like, and I think it would be foolish to not include that in what you're saying. But I also think that it is foolish to believe that there isn't, like, he wants to protect Russians, right? And I think him going in and protecting Russians is actually quite popular amongst Russians, right? Like, I do think that plays as well. That's what makes this conversation so complex. It's what makes humans so complex. Is that there is oftentimes more than one reason something is done, and more than one impetus for things. I support neither. That's the only rational position in my opinion. But I don't think that is rational. Like, how long would you be willing to stay in a room with someone who's getting beat up before you're willing to intervene? Like, that's the question. And if you say, I will never intervene, well, then you're on the side of the guy that's beating people up. Great White Hype protest star Navalny's dark side missed by mainstreams. Have you seen this? I have not. I mean, missed by mainstream. Yeah, of course it's been missed by mainstream. Hey, let's pick the number. Let's just go. Let's pick the number.
Here we go for today's number.
I actually straight up forgot about this.
February 28th.
Sorry, David.
2022.
Going with my 10.
10 balls.
Oh, we got 2 sevens right out the gate.
Each ball has a number. Numbers 1 through 10.
Who's going to get the magic?
Swirl the numbers.
Who's going to get the magic?
Pick a number.
Here we go. It's a decent spread. We got a 50% chance, do we?
Today's number is 7.
Both Islam and Macht get the magic today. May the magical energy of David Lynch carry into your lives. May it sparkle throughout your imagination and your creativity. May it elevate you into the highest level of your own imagination. May it help you become the greatest version of yourself that you possibly may be. Love it. All right, let's. So here's a take. What I love is that this comes from, of course, the only anti-NATO group that I can find on Reddit, Jen Zedong, and Harry Potter comparison. Don Bass is Harry Potter, who was humiliated by the Ukrainian Dursleys for many years, and finally he received a letter from Hogwarts, Russia, in which Dumbledore, Putin, recognizes him as his own and sends Hagrid, the Russian army, to confront Voldemort, NATO. I don't have a birthday tomorrow. No, my birthday's in January. Oh, you were thinking of going 7, decided not to. Yeah, you didn't want to. You got spooked. There were already 2 sevens on the table, right, Eric? So you got spooked. But you felt it. You felt the call. You felt the pull. I respect. The complete and utter destruction of Ukraine, hundreds of thousands of refugees, mass casualties, isn't worth getting rid of that battalion, in my opinion. This is going to be a horrendous war. It hasn't. We're not there yet. And my perception of what's going on is, like, Putin has sort of made his case, right? He's made a pretty big statement, and he looks like he wants to get into conversation with Zelensky directly, because Zelensky doesn't really have any control of what's going on. And I think Putin wants wants to get in conversations with him, because Zelensky doesn't want this war either, dude. Like, Zelensky super doesn't want to get into this war either. And I mean, like, Putin doesn't want this. Like, nobody actually wants this fucking war, right? But the forces who are behind pushing this war forward aren't existentially threatened, right? The United States is not existentially threatened. Not really. Like, unless nukes start to fly. But the real thing that, like, a big thing that could really happen is that Zelensky and Putin could sit down and actually say, look, we don't want this war, you don't want this war, let's not do it. Let's just agree to stand down. I suspect that Putin is saying to Zelensky, we're going to take Donbass. You got to give up some of these Nazis, and we're going to put them on trial. Like, that's an important part of the conversation. Like, denazification was a casus belli for this war. Right? Denazification was one of the reasons. It was the demilitarization and denazification was the casus belli that was evoked. And so Putin can't walk away from the table without actually showing that he has done something meaningful in order to pursue that objective. And in my perception, that's going to be arresting and prosecuting and publicly executing some of these Nazis. And if Zelensky, this is where it becomes interesting, because Zelensky doesn't actually have any allegiance to all of this. Like, Zelensky himself is not a Nazi. This is what's interesting. Is like, he's just he's just a dope. He's just a stooge in all of this. And so if Putin is saying to him, give up some of these Nazis, he's probably going to do it. Like, that's probably going to happen. Because it's, and maybe it's my own naivety on this, because I said the same thing before Putin invaded. I said that the Americans will likely find the diplomatic solution, because the diplomatic solution is obvious and it's there. But I failed to recognize that it was actually in the interests of America for Putin to strike, right? Because that lets them get into the sanctions, that lets them secure European allies to their side and all that kind of stuff. And it's also in their interests for Putin to back down and for them to take NATO, or Ukraine rather, and have NATO join Ukraine join NATO. And yeah, even Zelensky upholds Bandera as a national hero. I think he does that for political reasons exclusively. But you're right. Like, you're not right on that. I mean, sorry, you are right on that. Wow, I am getting tired, man. I'm starting to make very but it's not. I don't feel sad. Like, that's what's important. Like, it's just that my brain is tired. I think that's it. Because it's what a dumb situation, man. What a dumb situation. Dementors fed on human happiness and thus generated feelings of depression and despair, and any person in close proximity to them sounds like Azov. Yeah, I think people focus too much on Azov, and the whole government has a fascism problem. Even Zelensky upholds Banderas as a national hero. Yeah, it's definitely true. Which is why I think Putin can't walk away from the table unless he's got a couple of these guys. Like, there's got to be arrests. There's got to be like a sweeping up of some of the worst actors, and Putin is going to want to put him on trial, which the West will report as show trials. That's how the West will report on it. Should that be what happens? I just think it's the most likely thing to occur, because Russia doesn't actually want this war. And in fact, it echoes very much what happened in Georgia, right? That, like, Georgia, Putin invaded Georgia, took this territory, and then they came to an agreement. I think the same thing's going to happen here. Like, I hope the same thing happens here, but it seems like it's going to be likely. Like, why on God's green earth would Zelensky want to continue with this war? And Putin doesn't want to. Like, nobody wants to. So it really is just like, we have Donbass now. Move your troops away from Donbass. Get them away. Give us some of these fucking Nazis. We'll put them on trial. Right? So we'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. And in the meantime, right? Russia, bad man. Oh, yeah. Remember in the future that those who demand you preface everything supportive of Palestinian resistance with, I acknowledge that Hamas is bad, are currently deep-throating Nazi cock and calling any mention of their existence whataboutism. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go use the washroom quick, guys. Here's Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn's take on this is the human take. And I think that this is definitely valid from the human position. And so I think it's worth listening to, especially, as I go use the washroom. Be right back.
I'm horrified at the war in Ukraine, horrified at the loss of life, horrified at the bombardment, and horrified at the future. The Ukrainian people are now going through an absolute hell. They're frightened of what may happen. Bombardment from the air and the arrival of tanks and other forces is terrifying. My thoughts are with the people of Ukraine. They deserve and should be able to live in peace in the future, as should the peoples of every other country of the world. We have to apply political pressure on Russia and support the public pressure that's there in Russia to end this war and to withdraw those Russian forces. And we should go back to the original agreements relating to Ukraine that were made in Budapest and the later Minsk agreement, which was designed to bring about a long-term ceasefire. All wars end with a political solution. All wars end with dialogue. Why don't we cut out the fighting zone and go straight into the talking zone? It's very easy for a politician in any parliament in the West to get up and say, go to war, go to war, go to war. It's always easy to vote for somebody else's children to go to war and die. When a war takes place, there's always a desire by the opposing sides to make sure it's only their line and their story that gets out. And so it's truth that is the first casualty in the fog of war. Keir Starmer claims that the Stop the War Coalition is a Russian stooge. There is no evidence anywhere they've done anything other than stand up for peace around the world. In my own case, there's a record going back as long as your arm, both in the Soviet Union and in post-Soviet Russia, because human rights and solidarity are universal, irrespective of the convenience or inconvenience of the time. I get accused of being pro-Russian and pro-Putin. I'm pro-human rights, actually. That's my position. Putin was promoted into office with the support of Tony Blair and some other Western leaders, and he was welcomed in the West, state visit to Britain. At that very time, the Chechen war was going on. The appalling loss of life of Chechen people and of Russian people, the abuse of the human rights of the Chechen people, the racism towards Chechens in Moscow and other cities was palpable. I was part of a delegation to Moscow with the Parliamentary Human Rights Group, an all-party delegation. We met many Russian officials complaining about the abuse of human rights. And indeed, with Tony Benn, I was part of a public demonstration, a march through London in support of the rights of Chechen people. And at the time of the awful event in Salisbury, I said that it was the Tory party in Britain that had received a great deal of money from Russian oligarchs, and that we should be looking at the question of Russian money in Britain.
We're all familiar with the way huge fortunes, often acquired in the most dubious circumstances in Russia, sometimes connected with criminal elements, have ended up sheltering in London and trying to buy political influence in British party politics. And there has been over £800,000 worth of donations to the Conservative Party from Russian oligarchs and their associates.
I was ridiculed at the time, and now we're getting on to the Magnitsky rules, register of ownership and where money actually comes from. So there are many people on the left who've actually been quite consistent in supporting journalist rights, human rights, right to demonstrate, and all the other things that we expect within a free society. And indeed, when the 2003 Iraq War started, I was completely opposed to it. But I didn't think we should go to war with the United States. I didn't think we should go to war with anybody else. What I thought was we should bring about peace for the people of Iraq. There is no solution in the Ukraine which involves a war with Russia. What it involves is getting peace to get the Russian forces out of the Ukraine. But an attack on Russia isn't going to bring about peace. It's going to bring about a worse situation and another war and more bitterness and hatred and more of the world's precious resources taken up in manufacturing arms and weapons of mass destruction rather than dealing with the environmental crisis that everyone faces. Often those that dissent at a time of a perception of complete unity are sometimes seen to be the prescient voices for the future. So being a bit unpopular once or twice is no bad thing. I've often asked this question about whether anybody wins a war or not. A war is fought, land is gained and land is lost. A war ends, the media caravan moves on to somewhere else. But for the person that's lost a son or a daughter in that war, forevermore they're going to be thinking on their birthdays what they could have done, what they would have achieved, where they would have been, what they'd be doing now. And so it goes on and on through their lives, and the hurt goes on forever. Nobody actually ever wins a war. Even having a war is a defeat for all of us. And so the question is how to halt the wars as quickly as you can and move on to a process of peace, understanding, and recognition. The worst case scenario in the current conflict in the Ukraine is a complete occupation, huge loss of life, and then the outbreak of resistance and a civil war which could go on for a very long time. Even worse would be armed conflict between Russia and NATO forces anywhere, because both are nuclear powers, both are armed to the teeth, both have highly sophisticated and very efficient weapons. I hope there is never a nuclear conflict anywhere in the world, but clearly the stakes are very high and it is very, very dangerous indeed. And so to say that being anti-war is a sign of weakness, no. It's the opposite. It's a sign of that strength that you are prepared to look at the current conflict and say this has to be resolved and we have to bring about peace. So what we need is more voices for peace, more anti-war activists around the world to expose the dangers and the folly of war and oppose what their governments are doing. So I was inspired to see so many young people on the streets of Moscow, of St. Petersburg, many cities all across Russia saying it wasn't done in their name and they didn't want that war. Exactly the same language many of us used on the eve of the invasion of Iraq when we said it's not done in our name. In the same way, Americans said that about the Vietnam War. And so it is the voices of people all around the world searching for and demanding peace that are the voices we should be listening to at the present time. In a time of war, truth is often the first casualty. Dissenting voices is very important. Understanding issues is very important. So, support Double Down News on Patreon.
Double Down News also where I've played these guys quite a bit. Oh, I can't believe I'm not subscribed. Boom, there we go. Jeremy Corbyn, man, that's a good layout, man. Like, and a very human perspective, a very optimistic perspective, because it would be nice, man. Yeah, no mention of Donetsk or Luhansk, right? That like, none of that. That's what's troubling me about it. Like, we're not being honest about what is happening. Like, we really are acting like we were just chilling out and then Putin came and fucked us up. Like, and that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Right? I would love there to be peace. I would love for all of us to be able to just chill out, right? Absolutely. I hope that Putin and Zelensky get to the table. I hope that they come to an agreement. I hope that they can work it out just by having a nice chat about it. Boy, would that be nice, right? That's usually not what goes down. It's important to be realistic about this. Like, and it's important to understand what's actually happening. Yeah, everything is still seen through a Eurocentric or Western lens. Yeah, and don't talk about our own actions in this, right? And I think Corbyn, I bet, does know about these things. but he's a politician, right? He understands that he can't just step on landmines like that. Like, I can step on landmines like that. Who the fuck am I? I'm just some, like, fucking YouTube guy, right? I can walk around stepping on landmines, fucking shit like that. I could be like the landmine detector, sure. Corbyn can't, and his position is pretty reasonable, right? We should de-escalate this. We should talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. But then, of course, there comes the question. Well, what do you do if one of the parties refuses to talk while being the aggressor in a war? I think that's a question that does need an answer. You can't just say, like, oh, well, we should all come to the table and have a good talk about it and de-escalate. Like, okay, what do you do if the aggressor in the war is not actually talking to you? Like, the anti-war movement that's a problem, right? Like, and it's a problem that the anti-war movement doesn't really want to confront and doesn't want to really answer, which is why I get so much heat about my position. Because, like, it's all well and good to stand up, like, we should come to the table and use diplomacy and find a solution that and de-escalate and no more war. Okay, well, what do you do if the aggressor in the war refuses to come to the table and talk? It's a problem. A problem that requires a solution. Like, what's Russia and what's Putin supposed to do? Just NATO moves in, Ukraine becomes a NATO state. Well, what do you think happens next? Like, what do you think the next step on this is? Like, I could feel my brain just like crunching in on my head. I've been reading an audiobook recently. Guys, I'm going to tell you about this. Complete 180. So I read audiobooks, right? And what the audiobook I'm reading right now, like, I shouldn't actually read this out loud because I don't want to stumble into any weeds or anything, but like it's like pages and pages of, like, if the ESG in the portfolio is above 3.5%, the RFS's measure, then it can be seen that the articulation between the ESG and the RFG is above 4.3%. And it's literally like pages and pages and pages of that. And I'm finishing that project tonight. I'm so looking forward to it, you guys. Been such a challenging project, that. Just, like, read the dictionary out loud. Actually, I use that as an example, but I actually think reading the dictionary out loud would be better. Yet NATO takes over Russia and China and the rest of the world. Then what? To the moon, Ward! To the moon! Right? And what do you end up with? You end up with Starship Troopers is what you end up with. I rewatched Starship Troopers again, dude. What a great movie to watch right now. Like, when it came out and the age that I was at, I didn't understand it and I thought it was really hokey and dumb. But I rewatched it recently. That film is brilliant. Starship Troopers is a brilliant movie. Like, and absolutely, like, totally prescient for what is happening in today's world. Just like, yeah, just they capture the, like, incompetent zeal of war, the inability of military nations to prepare properly, to create appropriate deterrence, to actually be good at war, right? Like, that's the best part about Starship Troopers, is it really shows the human military as being very, very bad at what it's doing. Like, it doesn't know what it's doing. It's very incompetent. It doesn't plan. It creates no deterrent strategies. It doesn't attempt to understand what's happening. Did Starship Trooper inspire Warhammer 40K? I think it might be the other way around, actually. I think it might be the other way around. The propaganda machine, absolutely. It really captures that idea, like the war machine, the propaganda machine behind the war machine. And like Warhammer 40K is like one of the great parodies of war society, right? It's just one of the great parodies of war society that like that they're insane, right? Like their leadership is literally like someone who is bound to a throne that is like keeping them alive, right? And I was on the arachnid side in SST. Yeah, like they were just fucking bugs, man. Like, what's their big thing? Like, here's my big thing, right? Like, what was the Cassius Belli for the humans to go to that bug world and destroy it, right? Well, an asteroid came and hit Earth, right? And they're talking about it as if it's like the bugs sent it, but it's like just an asteroid. You're telling me that you don't have an asteroid defense system? Like, an asteroid hit Earth. You're telling me you don't... like, you've got all these starships. You're telling me you don't have an asteroid defense system to prevent exactly this? And the question is just never raised in the movie, right? Whereas, if I was on that fucking planet when that happened, I would be like, hey, didn't we see this shit coming? Didn't we see... This has a very, like, Bush did 9/11 sort of vibe about it. This whole, like, asteroid hitting Earth thing. I'm like, what are you talking about? How did that happen? You're telling me we don't have any scout ships, we don't have anybody, we don't have astrophysicists, we don't have anybody tracking any of this kind of shit when we've got spaceships in space, right? And then we don't have the capacity to go and blow this up like 100,000 light years before it even gets here? So, in my opinion, what the film is actually saying, by not even raising the issue, is that military societies will allow these sorts of things to occur in order to justify further militarism. Because the entire society is based on the concept that people go into war, right? And that it's all about war, right? And to become a citizen in the Starship Troopers society, you have to do a military service, and it doesn't really count if you don't actually fight a war. Only 25% of the population in the United States upholds capitalism. Half the population doesn't even vote because they understand exactly what's happening. Well, a quarter are the democratic socialists. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, given what's going on in the United States, I understand why people are getting really like, gotta vote Democrat, right? Like, I get it. It does make a type of sense, but like, it really is choosing between the oligarch class or the Nazis they fund. Like, that really does seem to be the choice that is before us. No nerds? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, dude? I play D&D. I'm a nerd all the way. I love it. I love it. All the nerdiness, Magic the Gathering, right? Come on, man. Ugh. If you're a millennial and you've never played like Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering, are you actually a millennial? Right? Oh, man. I'm really glad that you guys are here. I really am. It would be very difficult to be going through this in a bubble, in an isolated kind of place. It'd be very difficult trying to express these feelings I have about this war. And I've had that experience before. I know what that feels like. Like when the Iraq invasion happened, I felt like I was crazy. I felt like I was crazy. That everyone around me was like, what are you talking about? We got to go to war. Oh, thanks, guys. And And if I said to anybody, like, well, Iraq didn't have anything to do with 9/11, what are we talking about? Then I was some kind of traitor and I was some kind of kook. I got a lot of, oh, John. I got a lot of that, right? I would finish conversations with people and their seminal statement would be, oh, John. Well, that's just John. Oh, what a kook, right? I was always just sort of the kooky oddball off in the corner. And yeah, Major, I feel crazy now. Yep. And so I'm constantly. That's why it's important to me that I get challenged on a lot of my positions, because I don't want to turn into fucking like Alex Jones. You know what I mean? I don't want to be sitting here being like, oh, the Russians, they're turning the frogs gay. I just never want to be that guy. You know. I've only met one person that calls themselves a democratic socialist who wants to transition to collective ownership via democratic means. Like, this is the thing that's so naive about that. Like, it's never going to happen democratically. Like, the capitalists will never allow the means of production to transfer democratically. They'll never do it that way. They will literally fund neo-Nazi groups to attack you before they do that. Like, that... We will be fighting like neo-Nazi groups, mercenary groups, funded by oligarchs who are kicking in doors and killing opposition before they give away the means of production through voting. Like that is what will happen. And we should not pretend otherwise. Like that that is obviously what they're going to reach for. And I think it's naive. It's naive to believe that the capitalists will give up the means of production because we all got together and voted on it. It's just naive. Like they'll straight out just say that they don't care. Like straight out. Like if we vote in a person who then turns around and writes a law and says the means of production must be transferred, like the oligarch class will simply say they don't care. Then what? Like they'll just go no. Like you oh, okay. Like you know? Like how do you actually enforce that? And so unless you actually have like your military on side, or unless you have enough social, like militant social force to be able to fight back against these mercenary groups and the power structure that the oligarchs have erected, it's not going to happen. You're not going to tuck your way into it. And I mean, like, it's never been done that way ever. Right? Like, it's always been Nerf guns. Wouldn't that be nice, Ryan? Wouldn't that be nice? If we could all just resolve our conflicts with just, like, Nerf guns. Just, like... Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. It'd be funny to see a more nice Alex Jones. They're turning the frogs gay, and brother, that's okay by us. If that's the way the frogs want to live. Man, I was talking to I've got a couple of trans friends, and I was talking to them the other day about what it must be like to be trans in this moment. And I just, it's making me realize more and more, like, because I used to be a person who would be against, like, I would be like, trans people can't exist, and this is all just hokum and all that kind of nonsense. And boy, howdy, am I glad that I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, are you kidding me? The existence of trans people is the most interesting shit in the world. Like, just like a transient in between different, like, kind of thing. And I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, what is it that we're actually fighting against here? Oh, we're fighting against the idea that the world is more complex and interesting and beautiful than we ever thought. That at the end of the day, what we actually are fighting against when we fight against trans people is our own imagination. That we refuse to come to terms with reality because we didn't imagine it that it was this way. That reality doesn't mesh with our expectations. And instead of simply changing our expectations and growing our imagination, we're willing to fuck people up about it. Call in the military after the decision has been made and hope they don't get bribed to turn against you and install a pro-business leader instead. Yeah, I mean, exactly. But that's what it is, right? And if there is actually any hope in America, it is that the military seems, and not like the military leadership, but like the military personnel themselves. That the military personnel themselves seem to actually believe that if the people vote this way, then we have to support the civilian leadership. That the relationship between the civilian leadership and the military actually does seem to be agreed upon. That's part of being in the military in America. That, no, you can disagree with the man that got elected, but you can't disagree that he's the president. And he's the president. He's the commander-in-chief, whether we like it or not. And that kind of ethos and that kind of idea does seem to be ubiquitous throughout the American military. So if there is a saving grace within America, it is that its military will respond to civilian leadership. And for all of our concerns that the American democracy is going to be dismantled, there is an element within the American military that is saying, no, it won't. No, it won't. We're going to make sure that it doesn't. Because that's what we're here to preserve. We're here to preserve American democracy. Right? So, life is very complex. The political geopolitics of everything is fucking ridiculous. But I'm glad you guys are here. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires, these oligarchs, are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the vain hope that you won't realize it, and you'll just stay the good little commodity that they want you to be. Revolt. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.